Hello.
Streamer go. Testing, testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Right, Rand, can you say something again?
Yeah, I'm sorry this happened.
Testing, testing. I'm going to turn myself up a bit. Testing, 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 testing. Hello.
Oh,
That's too
it's
loud.
really loud
Testing,
on my
testing,
end.
testing, testing. Oh, that's loud on your end? Okay, I'll turn it down a bit. I'll just turn it up. I can't turn it up anymore on the stream, though. Is that too loud on your end? Because that's how loud I think it needs to be for the stream.
It says, I mean, on YouTube it says there's no audio. I don't know.
Oh, what? No audio?
Hold on. Oh, no, there is.
Right. Oh, wait, that's not right. All right, can everyone hear now?
I think so. I think everybody can hear. At least that's what looks like chat's saying.
Right, yeah. Sorry about all this, everyone. It's wow. There's something wrong with YouTube's ingest server, where Rand is located, but it seems to be working from where I am. Yeah, I mean, Tom Henderson says bitrate from Exo Primal should have just used Peppa Pig. I mean, he's probably right, man. We should probably just sort of use Peppa Pig stuff. But yeah, we're back. This is part 2, so there might be the audio is going to sound different, I guess, because now it's coming from my computer instead. Also, the timestamps are screwed up because the stream died and I didn't stop the time. I didn't stop the stopwatch.
Yeah.
So sorry about all that, everyone.
Jez is actually streaming this now too, and he hasn't streamed in I don't know how long. I don't know. It was weird. It just cut out on my end. Like YouTube was getting nothing from me, so I don't know. I have no idea what went wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems to be a YouTube thing. YouTube wasn't picking up,
or at least
stuff.
Something to do with my OBS. Because even when I tried to redo it, it like my OBS wouldn't connect to YouTube.
Yeah.
So this is why Jez is now streaming.
Yes.
So
we got there in the end, and we're on part 2. And I even remember what I was talking about before the stream died. So do you just want to let back off, and then
yes.
when we do the Spotify version, I will edit the hell out of this so it sounds a little less seamless. And although there won't be any timestamps, but well, it is what it is. So what we were talking about before the stream died, and we had to start everything over again. We were talking about the rumors of a PlayStation 5 Pro, and also the potential that Microsoft could follow suit and do a Xbox Series X.
People are saying they hear the gameplay audio.
Oh crap, we don't want that. Testing. Oh yeah, we don't want that. Right, get rid of the gameplay audio. Sorry about that, everyone. Right, so the gameplay audio is fixed. Okay, so yeah, back to the show.
Hosting's not so easy, is it, Jez, when you have to do everything, huh?
Yeah, well, the thing is, my streaming setup is set up for streaming gameplay rather than podcasting. So I'll make like a podcast scene in case this happens again. We have to do like an emergency Jez stream thing again. But oh well, we got there in the end. But anyway, back to the topic of hand. We were talking about the possibility of there being a PlayStation 5 Pro per leaks from Tom Henderson and Insider Gaming, and what that could mean for Xbox. Will Xbox do an Xbox Elite and stuff? And you just asked me for my thoughts on it, because the discourse seems to be revolving around this idea that people aren't ready for it. The gen barely feels like it started. We haven't really seen the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 even hit, their capacity yet. So why are they already thinking about next gen stuff? My perspective has always been, well, I upgrade frequently anyway. I upgrade my phones frequently. I used to upgrade my PC frequently, but the 4000 series GPUs are so expensive. I'm kind of just holding off on it at the moment. But for my mentality was like, I would enjoy getting upgraded consoles because I'm an enthusiast, right? And also it's my job, and I would buy that stuff anyway, But I can completely see where other people would be coming from, where like we've had like the gen started in the middle of the pandemic. Just the pandemic was getting started, and then we had like every game was delayed, and it only just feels like the gen's actually truly starting now. Games are still being delayed a little bit here and there, but it's slowing down now. We're starting to see real next gen games come out. We're starting to see better implementations of ray tracing. You know, we've got Resident Evil ray tracing, just looks amazing, and then you've got like next gen updates like The Witcher looks really good, and Cyberpunk looks good now with all the updates that has had. But already they're starting to talk about next gen upgrades, which it seems a bit. I can get why people would think that it's a bit. I don't know what you call it, gratuitous maybe, or kind of like sort of, I don't know, self-serving and stuff. Like, do we actually need this kind of stuff? And I'm going to write an editorial about this, I think, next week, because I'm kind of for it, but on one condition. I want to see the kind of trading deals that phone companies offer, because when you buy like a Samsung phone or something, and you want to upgrade your, I don't know, your Galaxy Fold to, you know, the S23 Ultra, what I did, they gave me £800 off. They gave me £800 off for trading in my old phone, you know. But the only trading deals that you can really get for consoles is when you trade it into like GameStop or something, and they give you like $20. So it's kind of like, it doesn't feel, I don't know, fair. Kind of, it doesn't feel like good value and stuff like that. So I kind of get where people are coming from and why it's not really the same. It's not really the same as trading in the phone, because like you said to me, like, I think it was either on Xbox 2 Ultimate or somewhere else. You said like, yeah, but you use your phone every day, constantly, for everything. And but I also use my console every day. So it's kind of like, for me, it's a little bit different. But I'm for it. But I also realize like I'm total enthusiast and it's my job. But honestly, I'd be for it even if it wasn't my job. I'm the kind of person who would get these mid-gen upgrades anyway. I mean, and you are too, right?
Well, I mean, I also agree with everybody that it doesn't really feel like this gen is actually started, right? So I get when people are like, really? PlayStation just was able to finally end their supply issues, and you can get a PS5 now, and they're already talking about another PS5 next year potentially. It really does almost seem too soon. You know, but for me, I don't know. I feel like the way social media is, you know, basically positioned out there, people take a stance on something, and their personal opinion should be, you know, adopted by everybody. So when I see someone like, we don't need this, it's not. It really should say, I don't want this, not necessarily that we don't need it, because who are you to say? You know, like, just because you may not want a next gen upgrade doesn't mean somebody else, you know, like, for instance, I wouldn't mind it, honestly. I'm also somebody who plays on my console every single day. If Microsoft came out there in 2025 and was like, here's an Xbox Series XL, and it does this X, Y, and Z, and it's $500 or $600, yeah, I'd probably get it, because I know how much value I get out of that system anyways, because of how much time I spend on it, and I would want the best experience. And people would say, well, just get a PC at that point. And like, you know what? I know that's a fair question. I'm just not really into PC. So for those of you who want to upgrade your, you know, get your 4090s, your 5090s, your 6090s every single year, nobody says you shouldn't do that. It's just PC is kind of like upgrade at your own leisure, where consoles were, here's the console, it's going to last you from this year to this year, and then you get another one. So personally, I would want it. You know, if 2025 came around and they offered it, yeah, because I'm going to get use out of it 100%. I'm gonna play that thing every single day. Now, would a PS5 Pro appeal to me? No, because for the simple fact is I don't use my PS5 enough, right? So as a multi-platform user, the only time I turn on my PlayStation is to play their games, and they don't release that many games a year. It doesn't make sense for me to buy a $600 upgrade or a $500 upgrade for it. But it really does make sense for me to buy it for the primary system, um, that I normally play on, right? So,
Yeah,
um,
I mean, I totally get where people are coming from, where it just feels like, yeah, it's the gen hasn't started yet. But I also think as long as it's optional, then why not? You know?
yeah, there's the also thing. Like, even if they do release it, you don't have to buy it. Just
Yeah,
because it's out there doesn't mean you have to spend money on it. You could be completely happy with your Xbox Series X or your PlayStation 5. I know what the company's relying on is a lot of FOMO, right? FOMO exists in the gaming community, um, and people want to be part of a conversation. They want to have the newest shiny tech stuff. And there's a lot of people that say they don't want it that would immediately break in 2 years. And so while what people I agree with what everybody sort of says this year about it, like right now, about not needing it, the console's power isn't even maxed out yet, this gen hasn't started, all those sort of things I agree with, and it doesn't really make sense right now. 2 years from now, we might be singing a different tune. I don't know. But based on how much gameplay I get out of these systems, I would totally 100% get one. And someone mentioned like you would get it, like you get it sent for free. That's not necessarily true. Just because I did get a Series X for free from Microsoft doesn't mean I would get whatever they produce next for free. I mean, there's already like games, like review copies of games I wasn't given. So just because you got something for free once doesn't mean you're going to get something for free later on.
yeah.
And that's not even factoring into my decision about whether or not I would want it. I would want it because I'm going to use it extensively, right?
It's also kind of like you kind of have to think of it in terms of what your audience is thinking of when you're a content creator. Like I get loads of content for free, and I think some game journalists or content creators they often take that fact for granted over time. Like if you've been doing it for 12 years and you're just kind of going through the motions or whatever, you might start thinking like, this is the way the industry is or whatever. But you have to always sort of remember that it's always really strongly in the back of my mind, like how much I struggled for money for most of my 20s, and how like I really did have to make these kind of decisions, like, do I get this console, do I get that console, because I can't get both, do I get this PC upgrade, or do I just not, do I buy this game because I can't afford both, that kind of stuff. And that's like as you get older, when you're younger and you're a kid, like you're at the start of your career, you perhaps don't have that much money. Maybe you got kids and they get a lot of the money and stuff like that. But as you get older, like people do just have generally more disposable income. Like this just, the way it gets as you get older and your career matures and you get, raises and stuff like that, hopefully. But you always have to remember a lot of the world can't just be like thinking like I'll drop $500 on a console or $600 or however much it is. So that's why it's important that it remains an option. Like if you have bought a PlayStation 5 Pro, PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X, and that was like a significant expenditure for you, you'd want to hope that they'd keep honoring that SKU and optimizing for that SKU. But I think the reason it might make some people nervous is we're already seeing a situation where the Xbox Series X hasn't been properly optimized for, and they're like, at least as pertains to Xbox, are we going to be in a situation where now, like, okay, now that companies have to do an Xbox Series X SKU, they have to do an Xbox One SKU, they have to do a Xbox Series X SKU, and they have to do an Xbox Series XL SKU as well. In addition to all the different PlayStation 5s out there, a lot of games are still putting out PS4 versions as well. So it's kind of like, man, that's a lot of versions to optimize for, and you can barely even optimize what we've got. So I can kind of see where people are coming from, where it makes them nervous, even if they are someone who would probably not have an issue buying it, or might even get it for free, like a content creator or something like that. So Like
Well,
even
Thaneros says, yeah, I think both of you are thinking in terms of being an Xbox Windows editor and content creator. You both needed to do to your work. Absolutely not. I don't need a mid-gen upgrade Xbox to make videos about Xbox. Absolutely not. You know, I don't have an Xbox Series S. You know, we talk about the Xbox Series S here. I may not give my thoughts about how games run or perform on it outside of like, oh, so and so says this, but I don't need an Xbox Series S to talk about Xbox, and I wouldn't necessarily need a mid-gen upgrade to talk about Xbox in the future. Maybe you know, you can maybe make an argument that it would be beneficial for for me to have one and beneficial for Jez to have one, but it certainly wouldn't be a requirement because the
no.
Xbox Series X is perfectly great as it is. I'm like thinking of all the time I play on it, right? I just spent, 70 hours on Hogwarts Legacy and 20 hours on Atomic Heart, and I just finished up Wolong at 30 hours, and I'm going to be playing Resident Evil. Like the time I spend on just the games themselves will be worth it for a system that I don't know what it would do. That's the other thing. At least last gen, right? You could look at it and be like, okay, we're gonna get 4K resolution, and some games offered a performance mode, which was great, right? 60 frames, and now you compare it with the TV to get 4K. What's the benefit now? Because 8K, I don't think is going to be a thing. Or maybe they still want to try to market like 8K televisions, 8K consoles, or whatever. But that's maybe more of a 2028 thing rather than a 2024, 2025 thing. So like what's the benefit? Is it really going to be based around ray tracing? Is ray tracing going to be the thing that was like, well, you get this console and you get better ray tracing or something like that? I don't know what it would be. But it's not so much interesting that there might be a PlayStation 5 Pro, right? I would be much more interested, and not just because I'm an Xbox content creator, but because I'd be really interested in seeing how Microsoft approached this. Right? You have one SKU for PlayStation, regardless of whether or not there's a digital or a regular. It's basically the same system. And then you have the Pro. Basically same thing as last gen. But this time Xbox decided to go with two separate systems that do two separate things or two different things. One's high end, one's low end. So if you're now doing a mid-gen upgrade, which I sort of feel that if PlayStation's doing one, then Xbox has to do one. I don't think they can get left behind on that. I think they would put them in a very bad position if Sony comes out with the PS5 that is significantly more powerful. Then I think that puts Xbox in a bad spot. That's just my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's just how I feel about that. But it's like, what do you do with the Series X and the Series S? Do you make elite versions, L versions like Xbox, Series XL and Xbox Series SL of both systems? So you have a more powerful Series S and a more powerful Series X? Do you introduce just a more powerful Series X and have 3 Xboxes on the market that do different stuff? One super high end, just throwing a number out there, 22 teraflops, the one at 12, and then the one that's, at the bottom of the bottom of the rung with the Series S? Do you phase out the current Series X and just sell the upgraded Series X with the Series S? Do you do an upgraded one for each? I'd be really interested to see how Microsoft would approach that situation. And then you also have the developer, right? All the stuff that they have to go to do to make all these different versions, right? We're cross-gen right now. You got to put together PS4, PS4 Pro version, PS5, potentially a PS5 Pro. So you got 4 versions on the PlayStation side. But assuming cross-gen ends, you got 2 versions. An Xbox, you still have the Xbox One, Xbox One S, One X, and then you have Series S and Series X. So that's already right there 5 systems with all varying degrees. Say you get rid of cross-gen and it's just Series S and Series X. But then you introduce this third one, and it's like, okay, now you're telling developers you want... I mean, I guess in that sense, like, it's just a better system, and they don't have... Like, the Series S is the floor, so it's like, whatever. The Series XL is up here, and we can just make the game better or something. But I would be... I don't know. I want Tom Henderson to get that information about any sort of plans that Microsoft is doing, because it seems more interesting potentially than what PlayStation's doing, because PlayStation just makes sense. It's like, all right, PS5, PS5 Pro, you're done. What the hell does Xbox do? Do you phase out the Series S and have the Series X as like the lower entry point, and then the Series XL that takes over its higher price point, and just dump the Series S? But that doesn't make a lot of sense, because that's the whole thing, is to midway part of the gen. Also, if you do get the deal done and Call of Duty's with you, you might want to have a $199 Xbox that people can go get to potentially switch from PlayStation. Wouldn't really make sense to get rid of the Series S. So there's a lot of possibilities that are going through my mind about what they could do. The one I think if the PS5 Pro does come out, I feel like Microsoft has to respond in kind. They have to release some upgraded system, and it can't just be a Slim, right?
Like my thinking on it is like a little bit different. I think like the fact that they've got xCloud, and that xCloud is sort of like, it's powered by modified Xbox Series X hardware, but the versions that you often get on the cloud aren't necessarily the Xbox Series X full-blown version, because some of the overhead is being used for video encoding, right? So it's kind of like you get the Series S version when you're playing in the cloud, even though it's Series X hardware. And I think that's why we're seeing some hardware shortages. I think like some of the stock is going towards the cloud instead of on store shelves. Like, could they keep the Series X hardware SKU going for xCloud or whatever, and then Series S, like, obviously is the most popular version, I think. We don't have hard figures, but it's assumed that the Series S is the most popular version of the Xbox generation. I don't know how true that is, but let's just assume that's the case right now. And then you've got, like, if they do a Xbox Series XL, that's probably going to be something that just fully replaces the Series X, I would have thought. Maybe at the same price point or whatever. But again, it all comes down to cost at the end of the day, because you're going to have people who just feel kind of blindsided by this, or cheated, because like they thought like, okay, this is my investment for the gen, at least for this amount of years. But the pandemic's really kind of changed the dynamic of how a mid-gen upgrade would probably work, because like I said, and like you said, a lot of people just feel like the gen hasn't even truly started yet, and I think the pandemic is partially the reason for that. So like, if maybe in a normal gen where like the pandemic didn't happen and maybe things launched in a better state or more consistently or whatever, maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation in the way that we're having it. But yeah, I think it's like you said again earlier, the plans for this would have been set in stone already. So kind of puts them between a rock and a hard place. But I agree with you wholeheartedly that if PlayStation does it, and it results in a console that can do things that the Xbox Series X can't, kind of puts Xbox on the back foot a little bit, maybe. But maybe not if they've got Activision Blizzard. Maybe it just doesn't matter if they've got Activision Blizzard.
It doesn't matter if they have it? I don't know about that.
Well, I mean, if they've got Activision Blizzard, they'll be off doing their whole mobile gaming thing, and that'll be what they're concerned about then. It'll be all cloud all the time, baby. Like all their hardware spend will be going towards the cloud, and the home console experience will probably be an afterthought, man. I hate to say it, but
you think so?
Yeah, maybe. I can't see a situation where Microsoft's kind of like, man, we really need to release an Xbox Series XL desperately, or we'll lose the hardware market to Sony. I mean, they've already lost it, you know. So it's kind of like, if they do get Activision Blizzard, like a lot of their focus is going to end up being towards the cloud, I would have thought. I don't know. A lot of this is speculation at the end of the day. I will say,
make a poll here.
Oh yeah, make a poll.
Go ahead.
I will say, like, I kind of like, I haven't seen a ton of investment from Microsoft in the console experience these days. Like, do you remember back in the Xbox One generation, the Xbox dashboard went through like a million iterations. We got like new features constantly, and upgrades and apps and all this kind of stuff that enhanced the console. But this generation, we've seen like some minor updates to the console. There's bugs that are plaguing the system that still haven't been fixed, for a million years, like the Dolby Atmos thing I keep getting DM'd about. The Xbox Game DVR is bare bones. I mean, it's better than it was after some upgrades, but it's still, not as functional as Sony's. And like people have been asking for them to just reduce the footprint of the tiles on the dashboard so we can see more of the dynamic backgrounds. We can't even get a decent conversation about that out of Microsoft right now. And the reason for that is that all their investment is going towards cloud. All the developer investment, all of their like efforts are going towards making the cloud experience as good as it can possibly be, because that's where they see their future. So I wouldn't even be surprised if they just let Sony have the PS5 Pro and then just not even bother following up. I would not be surprised.
I mean, we do know that they're working on next gen console hardware.
Yes.
The FTC basically put it out there and being like, we want all the information regarding redacted, your next gen system. So, I think Phil said there always will be hardware. So we know that they're working on next gen consoles already, and the FTC apparently knows the code name for it. Do you know the code name, Jez?
I might do. I've got some code names floating around that I have yet to attach to projects. So, one of them could be the next gen console family. They call it again in the documents they call it a console family. So it probably is going to be a Series S and a Series X again. But that's what I'm thinking though. Are they just not going to like focus on that aspect of it?
I
go all the way
know.
through to next gen and not even bother with the mid gen refresh.
I know there's a lot of people that doubt Tom as well. Because the information he provided in the article was a bit vague, but he basically said, "Trust me, he can't talk a lot about what he knows, but he eventually will." So maybe we learn about. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe Microsoft's just like, we don't need to do, or we don't want to do this, and because at the end of the day, I mean, it's a business. People are saying, well, why would Sony and Microsoft decide to do this? And be like, well, let's make some money. Why do you decide to do anything, right? Maybe they're looking at it like how well the PS4 Pro sold or the Xbox Series, Xbox One X sold. And you can get all the hardcore who have basically spent all their money on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, and then introduce a better system, 5 years down the road, 4 years down the road, and have all those people who spent all that money already spend all that money again. Right?
Yeah.
And you can sort of extend the generation, because we sort of think this generation is going to last until 2028, which would be 8 years. Last gen was 7 years. The gen before that, which would be the 360, was 2015 to 2013 was 8. Well, it was 8 for Microsoft. It was 7 for PlayStation. So maybe they feel that, at some point they just want another opportunity to extract more money from the fans that are willing to give them more money. That's something you got to think of. There may be no marketing opportunities with TVs and a real reason to make these systems other than like, hey, we can get the hardcore to pay us all this money again. And you know what? We're selling out. Like, people are buying the PlayStation 5 at $550 bundled with the game. Hell, in a year from now, maybe we could release a PS5 Pro for $600 or something, and people might buy that. I mean, who knows?
Oh my god.
I'm just saying, like, it's possible.
Well, I reckon, Rand, if you went back like 10 years, if you took a time machine and went back in time and you told people, your iPhone, there'll be an iPhone that costs $1,500 in 10 years. I think people would be like, no one would ever buy an iPhone for $1,500, but they do. People do buy an iPhone for $1,500, So, and the way that the PC GPUs are leaping so much harder than consoles constantly, I kind of feel like console. There'll be a point where they just decide, you know what? Let's just make it so console hardware keeps up to date more with PCs and stuff. I don't know.
It's a very interesting thing. I would love to know what their plans are. But we do have some super chats from the old stream that we need to get to. But I also wanted to talk about it last stream, or in the stream that got canned, and I wanted to give a shout out, not to everybody listening here. We all love you. Everybody listening live, you get the most love from us, right? But there's also the group of people that listen on podcast apps, Spotify and Apple and all that stuff, and
you guys are awesome
we appreciate you guys too. I had tweeted out that if you actually search, I didn't even know why I did this. I was just like, hey, I don't really listen to podcasts via podcast apps on iPhone. I listen to them on YouTube. I was like, I wonder where we're ranked. So I opened up the podcast app on Apple Podcasts, typed in Xbox, and lo and behold, we were the first entry, the first search result, which is incredible because we're right there. Right next to us is, Ryan McCaffrey and IGN's Unlocked, right? There was the official Xbox podcast with Major Nelson and Kind of Funny XCast from Kind of Funny Games with our friends, Paris Snowbike Mike and Gary Witta. And I just sat there and I looked at that. I'm like, that's crazy that a little old podcast started by just two dudes on a whim. It's just random. We have no ties to any sort of big conglomerate. We're not official anything, right? Like, we're sitting next to, Major Nelson's podcast is called the official Xbox podcast. Ours is just the Xbox 2. I'm surprised Xbox hasn't sent me an email being like, cease and desist using Xbox in your name or something. You know what I mean?
Well, I kind of accounted for that. Like, we started using the phrase XB2 on some of the t-shirts and some of the URLs because I was thinking, like, what if one day they do come and they're like, you can't use Xbox, because it is their trademark at the end of the day. A way a lot of people get around this for SEO is they do things like they'll call it like the XB2 and Xbox podcast, like it's a description, right? Because then you still get the Xbox keyword in there for SEO, but you're not actually using the code name. You just it's like a fair use thing. But yeah, I'm amazed how much the show's blown up and humbled, and really appreciate everyone listening. Whether you're live here with us, whether you suffered through our technical issues earlier, or whether you're on a podcast app. Thank you so much.
Which the podcast app will get the smooth experience because Jez is gonna basically tie this all together.
I'm gonna edit it all down. Yeah.
Do some editing. But yeah, I want to give a shout out to everybody who listens to this on iTunes or Spotify. Do us a favor and leave us review the podcast, 5 stars, write a message. It does help. You literally took us from God knows where we were to, if you type in Xbox, it's the most searched result. And not only that, but Paris told me it was the number one result for Xbox and Spotify, and someone else showed me his number one result on Google. So it may help that we have Xbox literally in our name. But I would imagine there's a lot of other podcasts to do. It's just really weird to see we're right up there next to an IGN podcast, the biggest gaming website in the world, an official podcast from Xbox themselves, and Kind of Funny Games. It's just like, what? And considering that most of our views come from YouTube, we're a YouTube live show, right? All those other ones aren't. Like, I don't think Podcast Unlocked is not live. Kind of Funny XCast is not live, and neither is Major Nelson's podcast. So, there is that difference there. So I wanted to thank you guys for that. And make sure you guys like this new. This is part 2, podcast part 2. Make sure you like it and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's see. We'll get some of these super chats that I missed that were in the other stream. Master Queef says, did you buy the new $1,100 Diablo statue, Jez?
No, I didn't. I saw that. They added a statue of Inarius who's the angel, who's Lilith's, enemy or whatever. I saw that and I was like, man, that looks amazing. But also, I physically just don't have room for any other merchandise at all in my office. Like that Lilith statue, like I had to move my Amazon Echo to like somewhere else. I need to find a new place for my Amazon Echo. I might mount it on the wall or something, but even if I did want to buy the Inaria statue, I just don't have anywhere to put it, sadly. So I think my statue buying days are over. But when I bought that, I was thinking like, man, it's tax season soon, and I guess I can put that as a work expense technically, because I did review it. So, oh well.
We have one here from Goldshell who says, "Can confirm Axel Primal works amazing on the Series S. 0 frame dips." That's good.
Yeah, Resident Evil 4 also works really well on the Series S. I had a colleague test it out for me. So, Resident Evil engine is just super good. It's just that damn good.
Yeah, we have one here from Supernova. It says, "Hello everyone. Is Ori 3 under development with Moon Studios, or is there a new studio carrying the torch?" I mean, I saw that rumor about there being an Ori 3 under development, which, I mean, I guess is possible because Microsoft owns the IP and Moon Studios is doing something completely different.
I wouldn't be surprised if it did happen, because I know how much Microsoft internally really loves that franchise. But at the same time, I'm kind of skeptical that someone could do it justice other than Moon Studios. Like, Moon Studios, the team there is kind of incredible. And it's not like the game hinges a lot on its art and its gameplay sort of working together. And I kind of feel like the team cohesion that you've got at Moon Studios, I kind of struggle to imagine that another studio could pull that off. But I'm willing to be proven wrong. So I would like to see another studio take a whack at it. Even if it wasn't Ori, if it was just in the same universe, maybe a little different. There's always room for more Metroidvania.
I don't know if I want an Ori 3. I would be fine with maybe another game in the universe, but I'm not sure I need a direct sequel to the last game, because the last game ended beautifully. Like, it was one of those games that I had tears in my eyes. It was such an incredible experience, and those games are so good. Like, they're the pinnacle of their genres that, you're going to be like, hey, we want to keep on doing Oris because they do well for us. But you got to live up to that legacy. And it's sort of like, do you want to put that on a studio? I don't know. Maybe a different style of game in that universe, but I honestly don't think we need an Ori 3. Not where, if anybody's beaten the game, not, where what happened at the very end, So I don't know. Ori means a lot to me, so it is the achievement, the game I used to break 1 million gamer score at E3 in 2016. So it's always kind of like gonna be part of the journey, so to speak. I just don't know if I want to see another studio take a crack at it and continue on the legacy of Moon Studios, considering I feel like they wrapped it up really nicely. Like, I almost kind of don't want a sequel. So we'll see. Achievement says, "I hope y'all are wearing green." No green for me. Are you wearing green, Jez?
No. I'm wearing my Xbox socks, which are green, I guess.
Excuse me, you got Xbox? No, man, you are an Xbox chill if you're wearing Xbox.
I don't know where I got these. Actually, I do know where I got these. I got these they were in the backpack that was given out at one of the fan fests, I think. They're like the highest quality socks that I have, which is why I wear them all the time. I find it really hard to get good socks, but these Xbox socks are amazing, and I wear them all the time. I'll wear them till they're completely worn out. But yeah, like I didn't go to FanFest, but someone gave me their stuff from FanFest, and I was like, I wasn't about to say no. So, well, I got socks out of it, eh? And a really good bag, which unfortunately broke.
Really good bag. I actually gave my stuff from FanFest 2016 away, but they always have some good stuff there. Randy G says, "Jazz, Diablo 4 is so good playing it while listening." Yeah. So I guess I know we still got some more super chats we'll get to, but that'd be a good jumping off point to talk about Diablo 4. We did see that Rod Ferguson had to come out on Twitter and basically saying, "Hey, so excited to get people to play Diablo, but we're getting a lot of questions about Diablo 4 coming in Game Pass, and that's not the case. We have no plans for it." Um, what do you think, Jez?
Yeah, I
I mean,
mean,
I believe Rod. I believe absolutely Activision has no plans for it. Why would
yeah,
they?
I mean, of course, Activision's entire business model right now revolves around the retail game, the retail copy, and they don't want rumors that it could hit Game Pass to potentially impact sales in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all that they're coming out saying that there's no plans for it to be on Game Pass, because right now there probably isn't. But I can damn well guarantee if the ABK deal does go through, that game is absolutely the ideal game to promote Xbox cloud gaming. Like, fixed camera perspective, the fact that it's basically a next level Diablo Immortal without the pay to win stuff. Millions of people would play this on cloud, and it'd work really well on cloud. It's like the ideal cloud game, you know. So yeah, there's absolutely no way in hell that this game won't be on cloud someday. That being said, it depends on the deal going through. You know,
Yeah.
will the deal go through? Remains to be seen.
Yes, that's the other thing. So, with the European Union, the European Commission delaying the decision to May 22nd, which also coincidentally was the date that Microsoft said to that gamers lawsuit to the judge or whatever that they wouldn't close before that date. But it looked like that lawsuit got thrown out, and the judge was just like, "There's no logic to any of this," or I forget exactly what the judge said, but she basically dismissed that lawsuit.
Shocker.
So
I'm
even if
shocked by
everything
that.
goes, even if everything goes well, and the CMA approves the deal next month, and the European Commission approves it May 22nd, there's still the FTC. Although they can close without the FTC, right? They can just basically just be like, "All right, we're closing." Try to force the FTC to file an injunction in court, and who knows if they will. I don't know if you saw, Jez. Apparently, lawyers or the FTC are leaving by the dozens
Yes, I saw that.
because they don't agree with Lena Khan and everything there. So I don't know what's going to happen to that. But let's just say hypothetically, okay, May 22nd, European Commission, they're like, we approve. It's the last thing they need. They can go to close it. What is the likelihood of Diablo being on Game Pass on day one? Because I sort of feel like the integration of all that stuff would take a little bit longer, and maybe it would join in like August rather than like June. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on what happens, but I don't think it'll be in there straight away, purely on the basis that xCloud servers are at capacity already. And I think something like Diablo could really tip it over. I mean, Diablo's own servers are struggling to meet demand right now. That, like, there's error codes flying around. There's massive queues. Imagine what that'll do to xCloud, right? Microsoft's already struggling to keep up with demand for Fortnite on xCloud. So, like, you put Diablo in there as well, and you start putting Call of Duty in there and Overwatch in there and stuff like that. That's the kind of thing that will bring the servers down and will sort of induce queues and stuff like that. So I think if the ABK deal goes through in summer, it probably still wouldn't hit xCloud straight away. I think Microsoft would be very careful with it, and they'd be like, well, let's, expand the servers a little bit first before we start going crazy. Because they have said that they're planning to, constantly upgrade the server capacity over the course of this year. They said last year, I think it was it in December, their Q4 earnings or something like that. Maybe it was even before then. They said something along the lines of, we want to grow xCloud by 150% capacity over the next year. Something like that. Maybe it was 100% or something like that. I'm not remembering exactly what it was. But they wanted to grow xCloud, which is, my conspiracy theory why we're not seeing as much Xbox Series X stock floating around, because a lot of that silicon is going into the server rack instead of into the retail shelves. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there is a delay between the deal closing and the game starting to appear on Game Pass, because yeah, they're going to be able to get loads of money from selling the game, for starters. So they might as well ride that wave while they can, because they've admitted in court that Xbox Game Pass does impact sales. But at the same time, they do want to grow cloud, but the cloud's at capacity. So I think maybe that's the kind of game that you'd be a little bit more cautious about.
At the same time, well, that'd be a great game to grow PC Game Pass, though.
Yeah.
You want to talk about where their growth opportunity is? Maybe not on console too much, although I think you had Diablo 4 there. I think people are, but like they talk about PC, and I mean, Diablo 4 isn't on Steam, so I don't even know if there's I don't even know if there's a Windows Store version of Diablo 4. I don't think so,
No,
and it probably wouldn't show up right away. So I'm starting to think with how late it's coming out, like May 22nd, however long then it takes to actually close the deal. You're probably not I think it's probably unrealistic now to think that Diablo 4 will be there on day one. So maybe it's a couple months later. Maybe they add it like in August. Maybe they add it in October. I don't know. I'm sure Subzetics would disagree. Be like, no, Diablo 4 day one. But I mean, there's not a lot of time between May 22nd and the 6th. And I don't know if they're making a Windows Store version or anything. So
I do wonder though.
Capacity, that's also a factor.
I do wonder though, because they must have a plan in place for things like BattleNet and that kind of stuff. Because like one of the contentious issues about the deal is like, what are they going to do with BattleNet? They've got the Microsoft Store and the Xbox app, which is improving but still pretty bad. And I've written an article saying they should just go all in on BattleNet, because BattleNet has a social network attached to it already. Loads of the games there are exclusive. A lot of those games which are available on BattleNet aren't available on Steam, and as a result they don't have to pay the cut. But I don't think it really harms the game's sales. They probably would get more sales if it was on Steam, but these games are so big and Blizzard's fan base is so passionate that most people don't care about installing BattleNet. I actually prefer BattleNet to Steam. Like, it's lighter weight, it's less bloated. Like, I usually keep Steam closed, and then BattleNet's the one that I have open, because I only reuse my PC for Blizzard games anyway. But I don't know what they do there. It's all these factors and all these facets that, when it comes to Bethesda, a lot of it was just obvious. It was just obvious they were going to kill the Bethesda launcher because nobody liked it anyway, and everyone hated it, and nobody used it, and it didn't make much sense to keep that going. So in the case of Bethesda, it didn't make any sense. But with regards to BattleNet, which is actually good, I don't know what they do there. But the one thing that you said is definite is that obviously this will be a big boost for PC Game Pass, which is what Microsoft wants. But honestly, Rand, I even wonder about that. I actually think maybe, because you have to remember they're paying a lot of money for this stuff. They're paying a lot of money for this studio and a lot of money for these franchises. And yeah, it would grow PC Game Pass a lot, a huge amount. But what if the play isn't to put those games straight into PC Game Pass? What if the play is you just get perks for having PC Game Pass? Like you get the Battle Pass for Overwatch, you get the Battle Pass for Diablo. Because like a lot of people often ask me, Rand, they often say to me like, will they put World of Warcraft subscription into PC Game Pass? And that's one thing I can guarantee they won't do. They will not put World of Warcraft's subscription into PC Game Pass, because the entire business model about World of Warcraft revolves around that subscription. It completely revolves around that subscription. So why would they cut their subscriber numbers in half, basically, by getting rid of that subscription? There's just no way they'd do it. So again, and with regards to games like Diablo, which are going to sell ridiculous amounts of copies anyway, maybe the play is we just put the perks in there, not the actual full game.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, Phil already said they're going to add Diablo to Game Pass. I mean, Like Pixelbit G says, they already said all Activision games are going into Game Pass. I mean, they've said that.
Well, I don't know.
But I would imagine like
I'm more talking about the timing. You know.
right. Well, I would imagine they're not making. Do you think Blizzard is making a Windows Store Diablo 4 right now?
No.
Probably not. How long do you think it would take them to make a Windows Store Diablo 4 version for Game Pass?
Not long.
Probably it's still probably some time though.
It's really not that long. It's basically because the Windows Store now supports Win32 client games. It's basically just, I mean, it's not zero work, but it's just like manifest file, and you have to do the Microsoft Store authentication, all that kind of bullshit. And Microsoft will probably handle a lot of that. Like you don't, it's not like it used to be where you had to make a full like a UWP version and a UWP export. They can just use the Win32 client.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Diablo 4, you still haven't gotten a chance to talk about what you played so far.
Well, I mean, you can see me playing it on stream. Like this is live gameplay right now. Like this is me actually playing it live while podcasting.
Oh, okay.
So this isn't the video. I love it. Like I'm not really paying much attention to it right now, and it's kind of cool that I can play it like this. Like as you can see on the screen, these are all just like little side quests I'm doing, which they don't have a huge amount of. There's like some story attached to it, but they're just side quests really. You just sort of go around, kill some stuff, and then get loot. This is like the Diablo gameplay loop that I want, And now like I've done these mini challenge now, a bigger version has spawned, and then this guy probably spawned a bigger boss, and this random level 8 dude helping me out. Don't know who that is, random player, and now a bunch of loot spewed out. That is, it's just great that I can play this mindlessly. But what you haven't seen and what I haven't shown on the stream, I'm intentionally so, because A, I want to experience it properly, and B, I don't want to spoil it for people. But one thing they've done amazingly well in this game is story delivery. So like when you're in a cutscene now, like before in Diablo 3, the cutscenes were just sort of, they would play out with the camera fixed above, and you basically just skip through them anyway, and there wasn't much in the way of acting. There was no real motion capture or anything like that. Story was definitely second fiddle, but man, some of the first cutscenes in Diablo 4 in the beta, because in the beta you get access to like the first area, which you can see here is massive. The map is just huge. It's ridiculous. So you get access to the first area and the first act, and you also get access to first aspects of the story. It's like full-blown cutscenes. Like the camera pans all the way down to the characters, and like there's full motion capture and full voice acting, and camera angles and better production values. Like everything is just so much better. Whereas like everything Diablo 3 was either in engine with a fixed camera angle, or it was like a pre-rendered video or whatever. So man, it's just everything I wanted from a Diablo game. It's a sequel to Diablo 2 rather than Diablo 3. Like the main criticism of Diablo 3 was always that like it's too cartoony, it's too World of Warcraft like. You can tell that there was a lot of crossover between the Warcraft team and the Diablo team with that game, for better or worse. Still really fun. Still really infectious, still the great Diablo loot 'em up gameplay loop, but the mood was completely off. It was way too colourful, way too cartoony. It looked like Warcraft 3 or World of Warcraft even, and they pulled it back a little bit with the Necromancer DLC and the expansion, but you can really tell they took that criticism to heart with Diablo 4. Because the first cutscenes are just ridiculous. They're insane. And I don't want to spoil them. I really want people to go and experience that. But it's like pure horror, pure like disgusting gore, crazy shit going on. Cultists, worshipping Lilith. Crazy stuff, man. And I was just like, yes, this is the Diablo that I wanted. And I think a lot of fans wanted as well. And it just feels so damn good. It just feels so good, Rand. It feels so good. I already know it's my game of the year. Like, I already know. I just know in my heart. You know, if the end game's good, if they nail the end game and it's not pay to win, like everyone's like afraid that they're gonna sneak they're gonna pull a sneaky on us, and there's gonna be some like spooky pay to win stuff in there that nobody expects. As long as nothing like that happens, you know, some sort of sneaky Blizzard stuff, I think it's gonna be Game of the Year. I really do. I think you know, with the Game Awards, you might as well shut them down now. I think this is it, man.
Really? Shut them down now, huh?
Shut them down now. This is it. It's Game of the Year, bro.
Masshole says, I think Rand is sleeping. I'm letting Jez talk about his boo, his Diablo. He's been waiting for so long for this that, I mean, he joined the Discord call before the podcast. He's like, I've never seen anything so beautiful in my life. I'm like so incredibly happy right now.
Dude, it's true.
You don't understand how like this is emotions based. What is it? Feelings based jazz we call them, right?
This is like
pure feelings based.
Pure feeling based shit. It's just like, but even when I like try and put away my nostalgia, my Blizzard fandom and stuff, you can just see like how much of a labor of love this is and how much they've addressed the feedback from Diablo 3. Like everything about it just feels better. Everything. The combat feels better. The visuals are amazing. The engine is so good. Like the way that it goes from like the top-down perspective into like the cutscene perspective, seamless transitions, the art. Like you can feel this is a team that was working off the basis of pure cohesion. This is like, you know, it just feels like pure love, this game. Like I could not imagine another studio pulling this off as well as they seem to have pulled this off. It all hinges on what the end game's going to be like. That's what it all hinges on for me. You know,
that's definitely high praise. So yeah, I got some more super chats here that I wanted to get to. Randy said he's playing it while he's listening. Total Wolfing says, I think the main reason Sony isn't accepting the deal is because they don't want to pay a licensing fee to put Call of Duty on PlayStation Plus every year in order to compete with Game Pass. Well, I mean, that could be one reason among many, but I think they've said before that it's much easier for them to negotiate with an independent Activision Blizzard where they can essentially get the marketing deal, they can get the exclusive content, they can continue with basically doing what they've been doing forever, and just using their market position to dominate the gaming landscape. But if Xbox gets a hold of it, that changes things up because no more marketing deal. It's also the biggest game in the world every single year, despite even sometimes when one of the games that comes out is bad, right? There's the Game Pass with Sony. Sony is very, very much like we believe subscriptions are different. Xbox is all 100% behind the idea of putting all their games in Game Pass on day one as subscription service. PlayStation's like, no. Like, it's for catalog content that's years old, right? They don't even put their games on PC day one yet. Yeah, that might change in the future. Maybe Last of Us Factions launches day one, or those like multiplayer games. But Sony's not even putting, like, Sony doesn't want that future. I mean, they've explained it, like they spend so much on their games and it would just cost too much and they would lose too much money. So it's a combination of all these things that Sony would want the deal to fail. You know? Yeah, I mean, I think clearly, if the deal gets approved, and Microsoft's already out there in the CMA, we've seen it where they're like, we're offering Call of Duty to PlayStation put it on PlayStation Plus. But Sony's like, oh my God, the cost to do it is just so exorbitant to us that it would basically ruin our whole business model, because we would have to like raise the price of PlayStation Plus because we couldn't really afford to pay that. And, you know, more and more people would pay that, would decide to play it on PlayStation Plus, and instead of spending $70, it could also really go away to a lot of their users could then expect that this is the way going forward. So Sony doesn't want to do that. Sony doesn't want to have to pay for all that because it'd be very, very expensive. But they might have to. They might feel like they're forced to, because they might look at it being like, damn it, we can't let Call of Duty be on Game Pass exclusively. Like, we are going to have to pay fair market value for Call of Duty on PlayStation Plus, simply because if we don't, people might, you know, basically scamper on over from PlayStation, decide to play it on Xbox, where like PlayStation might feel they have to remain competitive, they have to offer it the same, except it costs so much money for them to. It's very interesting how that could essentially play out. They may feel like they'd be forced to actually have to pay for it. That they wouldn't, they just wouldn't be able to let Xbox have that, because it could potentially blow up Game Pass. I mean, Michael Pachter even talked about how basically, you know, this whole deal is going to hurt the industry, especially Sony, because the industry has worked in one particular manner, in one particular way for so long, and this would open up a lot of different doors for a lot of different things. Basically, you know, cloud gaming, essentially, you know, trying to get gaming to more and more people, but on a cheaper way, right? Where I don't think Sony's ready for that. I don't think their business model is ready for that. They want gaming to stay the way it's always been, because they dominate when it's like that.
Yep.
And if you change that up, Sony may not be prepared to do the things that are necessary to compete in that way.
Yep. I mean, even regardless of what happens, I think the industry's changed forever. Even if the deal gets blocked, I don't think Xbox and Sony aren't going to have the same relationship anymore. I even think Activision and Sony won't have the same relationship, because at the end of the day, Sony will have been the reason pretty much all Activision shareholders didn't get a payday. You know, and Microsoft and Activision have been working closer together than they have ever. And, you know, when I was in Brussels, man, I saw it. I saw the camaraderie between the Activision team and the Xbox team and stuff over trying to get this deal done. And you have to remember, a lot of Activision's employees are shareholders too. You know, a lot of them are paid in stock, or they get bonuses in stock, and especially some of the veteran employees. So Sony will have impacted all of them negatively, potentially. I don't think things will be the same again, like for no matter what the outcome of the deal is. So I can see Xbox and Activision working more closely together after the deal. And I think, like, you know, even with regards to Game Pass, I think, like, you know, Microsoft and Activision could work to some kind of deal, even if it gets blocked. Because, like, one of the things Kotick said was that usually they'd be talking to Sony right now about, you know, licensing for the next Call of Duty game, and Sony isn't even talking to them about that, you know. And obviously, that's not me suggesting that they're going to block it coming to PlayStation or anything. Of course they're not. But you can't deny that there's something up with that. I guess we'll have to wait and see how it goes.
Well, Jez, so our poll that's been running for 37 minutes about do you want a PS5 Pro and an Xbox Series XL has like 685 votes. Did you know that 68% say nope, they don't want it, and 32% say give it to me now, which is probably interesting, because if this was last gen, I would imagine that result would be flipped far in favor of give it to me now. But yeah, at least in 2023, beginning of it, a lot of people don't see the necessity of a mid-gen upgrade.
Yeah.
Now, will that change by the time, if this comes out, like Tom says, next year or potentially in 2025? I don't know. I just know that as someone who plays games all the time, I'm not against the idea of paying for an upgraded console. You know, I've spent enough time on it, but very interesting. I think it kind of goes along with the discussion I see on social media about, like, there's no reason for these because the gen hasn't even started yet, which I do really agree with, actually. It really does feel like this year is like the beginning of next gen, even though we've had these consoles for 2+ years already, right?
Yeah. I do think it's kind of telling that Sony didn't deny the rumors.
Yeah, but why would they even give it any credence, though?
I mean, people will hold off on buying a PlayStation if they think there's another one coming around the corner. Maybe. No.
I mean, I guess that's true. I mean, it's not like IGN or any of the big websites or any like business websites ran with it. This isn't like that
True.
one dude making up the idea of like Take-Two is gonna or Sony's gonna buy Take-Two, right?
All
Which
right.
somehow some business websites actually ran with. Which it was super interesting to see Jason Schreier call him out with tweets. Like tweets I didn't even like remember or see. Like Sony's gonna buy, what is it? Sony was gonna buy Oculus or whatever.
Oh,
Spend
yeah.
like all this. It's like what? Like get out of here. I don't know. Like the idea of like, you're right. Maybe if this deal does go through, maybe gaming has changed forever. You know, like. Or maybe it's not. I don't know. I mean, who knows? Who knows?
I think things will change less if the deal goes through. Like, I think things will change more if the deal doesn't go through.
I don't know.
I can see Microsoft getting favorable deals from Activision that they wouldn't have got otherwise. But if the deal goes through, things will be a more level playing field, I think. But hey.
Do you foresee a future where Sony goes out and buys EA or Take-Two?
If they can raise the cash, I'm sure they would.
You don't think there would be any regulator concerns?
I mean,
about it. You don't think the same concerns that people said about Call of Duty would be leveled at Grand Theft Auto if that was the case?
I don't know. I don't care as long as I got Blizzard, man.
Yeah, I guess
I don't care at all about Grand Theft Auto. Who gives a damn? Nah, I mean, I think like if Microsoft does land Activision Blizzard, it'll be very hard for regulators to be like, well, you can't have this, because I think it's just at that point it becomes accepting that the gaming industry's reached a point where the mega publishers can only grow if they're part of a platform. Like, because you invest in something to get a return at the end of the day, And I think traditional video game publishers are struggling to find their place in a world that's increasingly dominated by mobile. And until the Apple App Store allows for more business models and gives more money to developers, only a few business models work on mobile, which flies in the face of traditional game development. So I think I don't think it would be bad for the industry if PlayStation bought EA or Take-Two or whatever. I say bring it on,
You've always said you felt. What's up, Fonz? You've always said you felt that you actually want Sony to buy Square, but I also think part of this.
I would love Sony to buy Square.
Part of this is because games take so long to make and they cost so much. Like there's a report out there that Forspoken cost over $100 million to make, and it sounds like Square is like,
man.
Well, no, but that's the thing. That might be just the cost of making a video game with the graphics that people want and expect and how long it takes for the games to be made, where it's like the development cost has ballooned to a point where like it's unfeasible, untenable for a lot of these companies to really pump out these games. And if you have like a one game, like you spent this type of money on this and it craters and bombs, well,
it's a huge risk, man.
You might be looking at some severe consequences where maybe before, during the 360 PS3 era, maybe it's like, all right, we it didn't cost that much and we can turn around and make another game in a year or two, right? Because they were doing that. But now when it's like, you can't just turn around and make another game in another year or two. Another game is another 4 to 5 year project that's going to cost another $100+ million. There's significant risk, right? And Pushing Polygon says, so make smaller games. But that's the thing. The big publishers are in this dilemma, right? You're right in the sense that they should make smaller games. But the problem is, us gamers, like, a lot of us, I'm not going to include myself because I don't do this, but when you get a thing like, oh, this game's only 6 hours long, people are like, it ain't worth $70. So the big publishers can't make the smaller games at the smaller price points because gamers have been conditioned to only expect the cutting edge graphics and a campaign with an open world that's going to take you 30 to 60 hours to compete, to beat, right? Like those same gamers laugh at the smaller games. They just do. So the big publishers can't make those smaller games anymore, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was a point where Ubisoft tried this. They had a spate of like really cool sort of like high quality sort of indie games they were making, like Child of Light and some others. And you know, you could argue stuff like Trials is a smaller game in a way, but you know, it's, even though they reviewed well and they were sort of popular, it's not the kind of thing that makes an investor happy at the end of the day. They want these like big tentpole releases that can, you know, turn into TV shows on Netflix and, you know, but increasingly it feels like the only people that can do that kind of thing are the platform holders, are PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo, you know. Can you see like Nintendo literally, they're moving into theme parks for God's sake. Can you see like EA or like even Activision like making a theme park? Like they're just not on that level. Like Nintendo's on a whole nother level when it comes to this stuff, and so is PlayStation, you know. And then you've got Xbox, like maybe they don't have the same level of IP prestige in a way. They got stuff like Halo and Fallout now, and Doom and stuff like that, but they didn't for a long time. But Microsoft's benefit has always been like their disruptive technology, like Xbox Live back in the day, and now the cloud stuff. Like they are the only ones that can do that as well. So like every single one of the big platform holders, they have something they can bring to the table that can offset the challenge being presented by Apple and Google and the mobile publishers, who are sort of competing in a different playing field and offering something more addictive that's cheaper to make and also results in addictions that suck everyone's money away, you know. It's hard to compete with that, and it's more to the point, it's harder to get investors excited about that. And that's why, like, as someone who wants to see core gaming go as far as it can go, I'm just sort of like accepting of the reality that I would rather see Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft buy all my favorite franchises than see them die, because I feel like that's the alternative here. Like the alternative for me, and probably shareholders, is like, and all these people who are like saying like consolidation bad, they're like, their alternative is like, well, better these franchises die than us have consolidation. I don't know. It ultimately depends on the shareholder culture and stuff like that as well. Like, I feel like, you know, Capcom, for example, seems to be able to get away with more with its shareholders than other companies do. But you can bet your ass that, like, companies like Square Enix and EA, they're sort of like, whenever EA tries something that will appeal more to the core gamer, they eventually start going back in the other direction. Like, and then they do something ridiculous, like the pay-to-win stuff in Battlefront 2. Like, Battlefront 2 was this amazing game. It was an amazing game. And they screwed it up so badly, they killed the whole franchise. Because there's no Battlefront 3 coming now. Because agreed. Shareholder agreed.
Look at Suicide Squad. I bet you Warner Brothers, even though they just had a massive hit with Hogwarts Legacy, right? I think I saw Christopher Drink say it's like already outsold Elden Ring, in Europe or whatever. Huge, massive hit. But I bet you they look at Suicide Squad and they're like, God, man, if that's a huge bomb, that could just wipe out everything that we made with Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah,
Because you're talking about a studio that hasn't released a game in 9 years. 9 years by the time, because supposedly it might be delayed the next year. And already the sentiment around Suicide Squad is,
not good.
I ain't playing this trash. I don't want this games as a service. So even though they're delaying it, I saw Jason Schreier said today that the gameplay is not going to change or whatever. And of course, how could it change? So I don't know if they're just going to be waiting to just wait out the negativity because the game was supposed to be launching in 2 months. But you could be looking at a huge, massive bomb and disappointment if Suicide Squad, from one of the best developers, or at least were one of the best, and spending 9 years on it, which gotta be expensive. Well, not 9 years on this game specifically, but they haven't released a game in 9 years, and they're probably a very expensive studio. And there's a potential you put that game out, and that game just bombs as well. So it's like, and at that point, it's like, well, geez, what happens to Rocksteady? I mean, we saw what happened to the team that put out Forspoken. They got reabsorbed by Square Enix, didn't they?
Yep. Dissolved.
Yeah, and it almost kind of seems like Square, because you've been making the thing, like you've been thinking for a while that Square has been kind of leaning themselves or making themselves more acquisitionable for Sony. Like they jettison a couple of their Western studios, but it's like, I don't even know. It's so dangerous to release these games now because they cost so much, and if just one of them bombs, that could have catastrophic effects for the company, right?
Yep.
So we'll have to see what happens with that. But a smaller game did get announced for Xbox. People were wondering if it would come, but Sea of Stars got announced for Xbox, Jez.
Yeah, I had never heard of this, but it looks absolutely incredible. It looks really up my street. Like, is this a what is this exactly? Was this a PlayStation exclusive
like an
or something?
No. It was I don't exactly know the details of it, but it was a game that was announced, and it was one of those things where it was announced coming to everything except for Xbox, and people people were like, "Oh, what the hell?" Another one that's like exclusively not on Xbox. But then they announced it this week that it is coming to the Xbox One S and the Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S.
Good.
Sabotage is making it. I wonder what. Oh, they made The Messenger, which was PlayStation exclusive. I think that was PlayStation exclusive for a time, or maybe that was a Switch exclusive before it went to PlayStation and eventually Xbox. So,
what was that like? I don't even know what that is either.
Messenger was pretty cool for half the game. It was like a 2D side scroller, like Ninja Gaiden-ish, and then eventually, like halfway through, it became this open world game, which I just couldn't play anymore. It just I didn't really care for it after that. But yeah, let's talk about the big cloud deals. Xbox out here, basically, hey, if you have a cloud gaming startup, there's a good chance you can get Call of Duty. Doesn't matter if you have 10 customers or 25 million customers, you can get Call of Duty. Because I think the report came out from MLEX that basically the European Commission is no longer concerned about the console, like the console part of like the theories of harm. Whereas before it was like, hey, we're worried about what it could do to the competition with PlayStation. We're worried about cloud gaming. We're worried about like multi-game subscriptions. And it seems that the worry about multi-game subscriptions went out the door. Like CMA is not worried about that. Neither was the European Commission. And it seems like the European Commission at least no longer worried about the competition between PlayStation or whatever. They seem to be strictly worried about cloud gaming. And that's sort of the remedy package that Xbox is offering to them. Which is why they are basically signing all these deals. On Tuesday, they signed one with Boosteroid, which was the largest independent cloud gaming provider based out of Ukraine. And then the next day, they signed one with Ubitus, and everybody in the world was like, "Uba who? Boosta what?" Yeah. Like, no, I didn't know any of these companies. But I mean, I knew Nvidia, but.
Yeah, I didn't know Ubitus, Boosteroid, but Ubitus is actually pretty important because they are like the cloud provider of AAA games that hit Nintendo Switch. So like, there's a bunch of games that are on Nintendo Switch, like I think Tomb Raider maybe is one of them, that they're entirely via the cloud because the Switch can't run them natively, and they are the company that provides that technology. So it's actually like it's pretty cool for the fact that Microsoft did those Nintendo deals, because it's probably like through this company where they're gonna get Call of Duty and stuff like that onto that system. But yeah, that's par for the course really, when all the regulatory concerns with regards to cloud pretty much gone away, you know, with all this stuff. It's like, it's just proof that Microsoft isn't trying to foreclose anyone or be dominant. They're just trying to make cloud a thing, you know.
I don't think people realize that. People think that, and I've seen this headline used, that Microsoft is desperately trying to get the European Commission to approve these things or whatever. But believe me when I tell you that Microsoft just wants cloud gaming to actually be a thing.
Yeah, they just want it to take off.
Yeah, they're perfectly okay off. That's why that's why when they signed the deal with Nvidia, it was like, not only are you getting Activision and Call of Duty, you can have the Xbox games and you can have the Bethesda games. They're doing it with all of them. They're probably doing it with a lot more between now and May 22nd, right?
Yeah.
The big one is people are wondering if they're signed one with Amazon Luna. But it's because they want cloud gaming to actually be a thriving, functional market 5, 10, 15 years from now, which they themselves would, position themselves as the number one player in said market, right?
Not only that, Rand, not only that, but they also have the technology to allow other companies to set up cloud platforms through Azure. So it's like, whereas Netflix is, Amazon is the king of video streaming services, right? So like whether it's Amazon Prime or Netflix or other stuff, other streaming services, all of that goes through Amazon Web Services, right? And Amazon takes a big cut of that. So like with regards to the cloud stuff, Microsoft can be like, yeah, we'll have our own cloud gaming service, whatever. That's great, but we'll also sell you the ability to make your own cloud gaming service, and provide those servers for that too. They just want it to be a thing, because that's ultimately how they win in cloud, is by making cloud a thing. And right now it isn't really much of a thing, A lot of things have to change to make cloud a thing. I was playing Civ 6 on the cloud last night, in bed, because Civilization 6 just hit xCloud, and it doesn't have touch controls. I was bitching about that, but plays really great with the controller. And I was playing it, and I was just sitting there thinking, like, man, xCloud has gotten so good in Germany. Like, it just feels native now. Like, whether I'm playing Hi-Fi Rush, something more action oriented, or something turn based like Civ or whatever, just feels native. Just feels completely native. There's no issues. There's no lag. I've got a good connection here in Germany. I've got I've got Wi-Fi 6, 1 gigabyte down and stuff like that. But, it's still tunneling through loads of walls to get to my room. And like, if I do a speed test now, I get about 250 meg in this office. So like, it's not the ideal perfect conditions by any means, but it's still just so much better than where it was. Like when xCloud launched, it was like, yeah, this is okay for turn-based games, but there's just no way you could play something like Halo on it. There was just no way in hell. There was just no way. But now it's like perfectly viable if you've got the right environmental environment for it, But
yeah,
but there's huge blockers, The big blocker is Apple, because Apple just blocks it. They're just like, no, Nvidia, you can't have a cloud service on iOS. Xbox, you can't have a cloud service on iOS, because it amounts to having a separate store on our system, which is dumb, because you don't see Apple blocking Spotify and you don't see Apple blocking Netflix, do you? Because they know if they did, then they'd lose loads of customers, because those services are absolutely, core to the mobile experience. But they don't want.
What's interesting though is that you can use Spotify on iOS, but you can't subscribe to Spotify on iOS.
Yeah, they and just imagine how much money they're losing because of that.
I also believe isn't Twitter Blue more expensive if you subscribe through it to iOS? Wasn't Elon bitching about that? About how like of the Apple tax, so it's actually cheaper if you subscribe to Twitter Blue on PC. I think that's why Spotify is like, no, you need to go to the PC to sign up. You can't do it on iOS.
Yeah. Like Apple charges a huge fee to developers to just exist in their system. They make it very hard. You have to use all their technology, you have to use all their payment systems, and you have to give them a big fat cut. Which is why like a lot of core games just don't work. The business models just don't work on mobile because of the way they've been set up. But the European Commission is also looking at forcing Apple to allow other storefronts on their system, because of stuff like this, because they are stopping innovation and they're stopping consumers getting a better deal and they're stopping consumers getting access to subscription services and stuff like that. They are looking at changing the way some of this stuff works. And when they do, Microsoft's going to be, Microsoft and Activision Blizzard and whatever, when they're together, they'll be well placed to take advantage of that. Because it will happen. It will change. Apple's got too strong of a position for them to not change all of this stuff, And Microsoft has said in its regulatory findings that it is going to make a competing mobile store to, eventually bring some serious competition to the mobile space, And, even on Google's system, Google's system is a little bit more open than Apple's, but even on Google's system, you can't there's a lot of aspects of Xbox games that get blocked out. Like the in-app purchases are blocked, so like developers can't make as much money from their games in xCloud, because if you get it from Google Play, because all that stuff has to be turned off per Google's policy. Like I noticed recently, like you can no longer buy music or books through the Amazon app for Android either, because Google's blocked it because they want you to buy stuff from them, which I would argue is anti-competitive since they have a monopoly. Like you don't see Microsoft blocking that stuff on Windows, because if they did, regulators would scream. Because there's literally Microsoft has a total monopoly on that stuff, but I don't see why Google and Apple get away with it. And they're not going to be able to get away with it forever. Like eventually, they will start looking at this stuff, and things will change, and then Microsoft will be well positioned for it. But we just have to wait and see if this deal actually goes through. But like one thing someone at Microsoft told me in Brussels, which I think I might have mentioned it before, I said to someone at Microsoft at the event, someone from Microsoft, I said, is this a Hail Mary pass? Like, what's the plan B? Like, if this deal doesn't work for whatever reason, are we screwed? Is Xbox screwed? Whatever. And they were like, no. Like, what? They were like, the plan doesn't change. Like, we still think mobile is our future and stuff like that. But what the ABK deal does is accelerate that vision. That's basically me paraphrasing. They said ABK accelerates the vision, but it doesn't have to be the whole vision. So like they've got like a plan B to get to where they want to be with mobile and stuff like that. It's just, it would be a lot easier if they did have Activision. But
yeah,
Fortnite's part of that plan. That's why Fortnite's on cloud. That's why Fortnite basically went to bat against Apple in court because their business model didn't work because Apple was blocking them from taking payments and stuff, It's really interesting the way this is all going to go down, but I think eventually phones will be more open like Windows. And it'd be better for consumers.
Indeed. We have a lot of super chats here from the other stream that I missed. So we get some, and we'll talk about the juicy stuff from the ABK stuff that happened this week. Private Pile says, Jez, here I am eating my KFC Double Down, dripping fries and Buffalo Ranch for a beta code, feeling some type of way. Did I just sell my soul to Lilith?
Well, you could sell your soul to worse people.
So basically, Diablo, they signed a deal with KFC, and you have to eat the Double Down to get a early code.
Yeah, if you eat the Double Down burger, which, man, it's two
pieces of chicken as the bread, and then what's in the middle?
Beef and cheese, I think. It's ridiculous, bro. It's bro, ridiculous.
You eat that, you probably will die.
Well, there's worse ways to die, I think.
Didn't they use didn't they copy your image for it?
Well, I actually spoke to someone in the Diablo team about this, and they were like, "Nah, we had this in our folder for ages." I think we just both came upon the same idea because it was pretty obvious, I think.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
So like we wrote an article about the Double Down deal, and we photoshopped Lilith holding the Double Down, and then like the Diablo Soldier team did exactly the same thing, and it was like, hang on a sec, I've seen this before. So, but yeah, they just thought the same idea really. I suppose it was pretty obvious.
Yeah. Faculty Radical says, no worries, dudes. Take your time. Thanks for all the great shows. Thank you. Sean, he says, Jeremy and Rand. Any updates on Scalebound? Every episode, there's always something about Scalebound. If you want any updates about Scalebound, you're going to have to go talk to the one who started it all, Special Nick, who, by the way, is not playing GoldenEye like he said. He capped for it all last year, and he hasn't even bothered to complete it. That's how Special Nick is. Right? Our buddy Sin Vendetta, he's here, and he says, as long as the PS5 Pro's design allows you to lay it vertically and horizontal without a stand, I'll get it day one.
Yeah, you know what I'd rather have than a PlayStation 5 Pro? A PlayStation 5 Slim, man. Like, that thing is so damn big.
It is big.
I have, like, in my German office, I have literally nowhere to put it, you know. And in my British office, like, I could put it somewhere, but now that space is occupied by Lilith, man. So, but I might try Sony's cloud service. But do I even need a PlayStation? All their games are coming to PC, man. They don't have exclusives anymore, bro.
If you don't have the FOMO and need to play it right away, I mean, they'll all come to PC eventually.
I'm immune to FOMO.
Are you? You're playing Diablo 4 beta right now, live during the stream.
Dude, that is
FOMO?
Just for me, bro. It's just for me.
Cassandra M says, what are your thoughts if Xbox only did a mid-gen refresh for the Series S? Does that
interesting.
I mean, we sort of talked about it. It was like, do they just do a Series X upgrade? Do they do a Series X and a Series S? So essentially have 4 consoles on the market, which would be insane. I don't know. I don't know, because the problem with that is you still have the Series S, and lots of people, it is probably the system that most people own when it comes to Xbox this gen. So it's not like you can just dump the Series S. I know a lot of people are like, just get rid of it, make it that's never going to happen. That's not the case. They're basically stuck with it until next generation, whenever they get out of cross gen. But I don't know. Just an upgraded Series S.
Dude, they're really happy with the Series S. Like, I know a lot of people, I know it's controversial, and I know it's blamed for performance issues and developer problems and stuff like that, but honestly, the fact that, like, students, younger people like, who don't have as much disposable income, the fact that they have a conduit to get a 1080p system that can have Game Pass, I think that's just a good thing. And I think, like, I don't know why you would argue against that people having access to that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, I don't know.
We have one here from Pixelbit G. Does the idea of this gen mean anything real to Xbox now, since the software just moves forward for them? I mean, they've kind of talked about that with the naming convention, right? It's just Xbox, and the consoles are the Series X and the Series S. People seem to forget that. I mean, you are right in that regard, where it's like, does the gen even matter? Or the idea of a gen like we thought of previously? Maybe not, especially everything's based on x86, right? But I'm sure, when you get to like 2028, the console that you put out is probably going to be significantly more advanced than the one that came out in 2020. Hopefully by then they go back on their CF Express stuff and just use M.2. Because I just have this feeling by the time 2028 rolls around, Seagate's going to be the only one still providing storage solutions for the Xbox Series X and S and whatever mid-gen upgrades they might or might not put out, It's like, hey, guess what? It's 2027 and a 2 terabyte SSD upgrade on the Series X still costs $400, because it never goes down in price.
Yep.
Mac Diesel says, didn't Phil Spencer basically say Xbox wouldn't lose in the power department when they showed the One X? They would have to launch the Series XL when Sony launches. I think he did say something to that effect.
He did.
They wouldn't lose in the power crown, but I mean, Face sort of brought it up in a super chat earlier about the idea of, like, did they say they would never do a mid-gen upgrade, or that just have no plans currently? I don't know. I'd have to go back and look.
We need to look into
that. Seth says Microsoft has put themselves in a position where the generations don't matter. If they upgrade, they will just get the latest smart version, all good. Josh says, "Hey guys, longtime Spotify listener. Saw you live and decided to pop in for a minute. Looking forward to listening on Monday while at work. Much love from Kansas." Well, thank you for dropping in
Thanks,
and
brother.
supporting the show. A lot of people do listen on the podcast apps, and I always see these comments in the chat, being like, "Hey, it's my first time watching live. I discovered you guys through Spotify or Apple, which is always super cool." And oh my God, Turtle73 says something Game Pass, something could be wrong, something Scalebound. I mean, that's basically just to a T, right?
Wow. Rip.
I mean, it's true. It's basically basically Jez.
A little bit.
Cassandra, weird question. If Xbox raises Game Pass prices, would people be interested in a lower tier where you might have to watch a couple ads before play? There was that. What was it? A survey? Yeah. It was a survey, right?
Yeah, it was
they were
something
putting out.
like that. Yeah.
And it basically had it where there was an ad-free tier. No, it was you had to pay like $2 or something, right?
Yeah.
It was like $2, and you only got Xbox's first party games, but they weren't day and date. It was like 6 months later, and you could play the games, but you had to watch ads. And I actually think that might happen in the future. I wouldn't rule that out.
I think
in fact,
as the Bing ads business grows, and it is going to grow exponentially as a result of the whole Chat GPT thing. I see it's for the first time in Windows Central's history, I've started seeing Bing as the primary source for an article's traffic. That has never happened before. So like Bing's getting some serious traction right now. And because of that, Bing is funded by ads, and those, Microsoft could start selling Xbox as an endpoint for ads, their ads business. And it makes sense to me, this idea of like, play an ad before you play a game, whatever, and it's like cheaper and stuff. But I don't know how successful that's been for Netflix, because Netflix has that in some territories now, right? Does anyone in chat use that ads-based Netflix tier? If so, let us know how it is, because
my sister uses it.
Oh, really? I have no idea how it is. Like, is it terrible? The ads just really lame.
I mean, you have to watch the ads, and it's like you watch a bunch of ads before you watch something, and it's because you get what you pay for, right?
Because I remember
what you pay for.
Yeah, you get what you pay for. I remember that. I remember when Groove Music was a thing. Do you remember Groove Music, Microsoft's music service?
Yes, I remember, but I never used it.
Yeah, so Groove Music had a free tier, right? And it had ads on its free tier. But the whole time I used it, no company's ever bought an ad for Groove Music in the UK. So like every time an ad popped up for Groove Music in the UK, it was just an ad for Groove Music. It was like, wow, nobody wants to buy an ad for Groove Music. It's no wonder they shut it down, right? And ad spend is supposedly down right now from major companies and stuff. But I don't know. I think the more business models they try and corner, the better, obviously. We just have to wait and see how it goes.
Yeah. I do think they might introduce that in the future. Maybe once all this ABK stuff is done and that they're integrated, and it's like, you're getting the numbers up there, and it's like, where do you take the next step? Series S is maybe a cheap price, and it's like, all right, well, you can, for $2 you can do this, and you can watch an ad. I don't know how that would be implemented. It certainly wouldn't be for me, and it certainly wouldn't probably be for anybody listening, because there's that worry. It's like once ads get introduced, they'll take over, and it's people are deathly afraid of ads. I mean, I pay for YouTube Premium. I know content creators, if you have Premium, they get paid more if you use Premium than they would if you just watched an ad. Everything's ad based, right? Like, get rid of ads. And I could totally see Game Pass being like, hey, by the way, you can use it with ads, but you can pay to take the ads away, Yeah. Dave Ramos says Series S mid-gen should just be more RAM. Well, I mean, that's assuming they do a mid-gen. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. And Esther Queef says, is Rand a secret Pokemon master? No, I am not a secret Pokemon master. Pokemon is one of my most hated franchises. And Steven says, "Hey guys, awesome episode. What's going on with the Ender Dragon? It's mysteriously a Minecraft thing, right? Yeah, wasn't there some copyright thing about Ender Dragon, Jez?
Yeah, so they registered a new trademark, which is simply Ender Dragon. And a lot of
Yes.
people wondered, like, is this going to be for a
Is this
game?
Project Dragon from IO Interactive?
Yeah, is it something else? Blah, 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 blah. Right now, I don't have any information on whether it's actually something more than just a trademark. But honestly, I think it is literally just a trademark. And I say that because there are aspects of Minecraft which Microsoft forgot to trademark.
Yeah, they did.
Like the notoriously the poem in the end credits was the subject to some controversy because the guy who wrote it never actually sold it to anyone, and as such he hadn't signed any agreement that Mojang owned that poem, so he released the poem like open source when Microsoft wouldn't pay him for it or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember the exact details off the top of my head. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's just Microsoft being like, you know, we need to make sure every part of Minecraft is locked down. So like no one can just go and make a game called Ender Dragon. Like, can you imagine if like some random person, you know, from Minecraft's past says like, I came up with the name for the Ender Dragon and Mojang never paid me for it, so I'm releasing the name Ender Dragon into the public domain. And then some random person just, you know, makes a game based on the Ender Dragon, you know, from Minecraft, and it kind of puts Microsoft in a weird position, right?
Sure.
So,
It also maybe could be the title or something to do with the next standalone Minecraft game.
or
You know,
could
Minecraft
be
Dungeons,
yeah.
Minecraft Legends. You know, Minecraft Ender Dragon. I don't know.
Yeah. It could also be DLC for Minecraft Dungeons because, as far as I'm aware, and someone in chat can update me because I haven't really. I enjoyed Minecraft Dungeons for a little while, but then my friends dropped off it, and you know they screwed up my build. So I was like, man, screw this game. I'm not playing it anymore. So they I don't know if they actually ever added the Ender Dragon or the End to Minecraft Dungeons, and you'd have to think like that would be a good place to have an expansion for the game, right? Because they've done the Nether expansion for Minecraft Dungeons changed a lot of the game, so yeah, it would make sense to me that they would do something with it, but it could just be nothing. It could just literally be we're protecting the copyright, yeah.
Well, Joe Repco, aka Flame, member for 21 months, says, Jezcon, what if the Ender Dragon Chan trademark is for an Xbox exclusive dating sim where you get to woo the Ender Dragon? Just think about it.
I mean, hey, stranger things have happened, right?
Yeah.
I thought of the donkey from Shrek then when he said that.
Because Kylo Co says, Jez, right? Why is MS weak on supporting more localization of first party?
Yeah, I mean, this blew up this week too. We had the people in the Middle East, in the Arabic states, they were rallying together to try and get Bethesda to respond to requests to localize, or at least just provide subtitles for the game in Arabic. I weren't even asking for voiceovers in Arabic. They were just asking for subtitles and UI. Like, some games are localized in Arabic, like Hi-Fi Rush was, for example, I learned. But many games just aren't from Microsoft. And it's weird because Microsoft is officially supported in some states in the Middle East. But much like Japan, much like South Korea, much like other places, Brazil, and lots of places, like, the support is inconsistent, we'll say. But more importantly, it's worse than PlayStation generally offers. Like, PlayStation generally offers far better localization support than Microsoft does. So there was that coming out. I don't know exactly why they aren't better at this. They are trying to be better at it. Because for me, it's an accessibility issue, I mean, if they champion accessibility and and stuff like that, but this is part of access. If you can't speak the language, that is, for me, part of an issue. It's an issue of access at the end of the day. and Microsoft is excluding players based on the random chance of where they're geographically born. And while like I don't think it's sometimes it's perhaps not reasonable to ask for full blown localization with voice acting and stuff. Like I can't imagine there ever being a game localized in Welsh, for example, with Welsh voiceovers, because there's just not many people in the world who speak Welsh, right? But I think when it comes to stuff like Arabic and Spanish and some other major world languages, it just feels weird that they're not even being localized with text. And yeah, like Starfield's going to be a big game with a lot of subtitles, and it is localized in a lot of languages. But if they're already doing Japan and Italy and Italian subtitles and all this kind of stuff, what's a few more? I don't know. It's money at the end of the day.
Yeah. I guess we talk about this other things about I don't know, their CMA's preliminary findings. Microsoft had they basically, I don't know. It says Microsoft stands ready, as it has since day one, to enter agreement with Sony to ensure that COD remains on PlayStation. Microsoft was repeatedly committed to do so, both publicly and privately. Unlike Nintendo and Nvidia, however, Sony has steadfastly refused to reach an agreement with Microsoft, calling instead for the merger to be prohibited. Sony has more than doubled the install base and sales of consoles than Microsoft globally. Sony's position must be seen for what it is, a self-serving attempt to protect its dominant market position, rather than one founded on genuine concerns regarding its continued access to Call of Duty, which it could have secured months ago.
Spicy.
Getting real spicy. So obviously Sony's wants the deal blocked, and they talk about all these things that Microsoft could do. They could have an incentive to raise the price of COD on PlayStation, or degrade the quality and performance of COD, restricting, degrading, or not prioritizing investment, or making Call of Duty so prohibitively expensive that Sony wouldn't want to pay for it, thereby making a Game Pass exclusive. But, I mean, whatever. It's basically the same stuff that they've been talking about for a while now. It's basically console war. It's PlayStation versus Xbox. But the interesting thing here was that we got some more... there was also some information from third parties. And it definitely seems that the industry is fully behind the deal, and Sony's basically been left alone, right? In fact, one of these devs even sort of calls out PlayStation. And I've even seen some people suggest on social media that Microsoft must have paid these anonymous developers for a good word, right? Because there's one here, I saw people saying it, like Microsoft must have bribed these people, right? The one that people bring up here is this anonymous one who goes on to say that our business primarily focuses on releasing video games for various gaming platforms, including both Xbox and PlayStation. In recent years, we found that our video game sales across Xbox and PlayStation have been moving in different directions, mainly due to the structure of how each platform is laid out. On PlayStation, we found our sales growing stagnant with each release. This is mainly due to the fact that despite PlayStation having the lion's share of player numbers and console sales, that share is mainly provided to larger titles from huge publishing labels and or developers and publishers who are willing to spend lots of money on paid marketing within the PlayStation console. That means that on PlayStation, it simply isn't a level playing field for every publisher and developer. It has meant that as the years have gone by, if you put smaller titles on PlayStation devices now, your title will rarely appear organically to PlayStation players. Instead, you're 100% reliant on players knowing about your game already, searching for it on the store. But on Xbox, the opposite has come true over the last several years. There are numerous means of players finding your game on Xbox, including special sections on the store and through the Xbox Game Pass service. As a result, we found that, despite Xbox having much smaller player numbers and console sales than PlayStation's, our games sell just as well as on Xbox since more players are finding our games there. We usually find that the revenue we now make from new games is more on Xbox than PlayStation due to this fact, again, despite Xbox being the smaller platforms in many ways. We found that wherever there is large public buzz around Xbox, there are more Xbox hardware sales, and as a result, we see even better ongoing results on Xbox. With this in mind, I found myself of the opinion that the acquisition of Activision Blizzard can only be a good thing for smaller to mid-sized businesses like ours, as it will no doubt lead to increased sales of Xbox hardware, increased subscriber numbers on the Xbox Game Pass subscription service, and thus larger sales for the businesses like ours on Xbox. Coupled with the fact that Xbox has a better ecosystem currently for players to discover new games, I can only see the acquisition being a positive for a lot of businesses like ours.
He also missed the point that like probably Activision games would be marketed less, so there's probably more visibility for him on PlayStation as well as a result.
Yeah. The acquisition will not all of a sudden make Xbox the dominant platform. It's far more likely that it may help to create a more level playing field between Xbox and PlayStation, which at this point in time is sorely needed. PlayStation needs better competition to force the platform to up its game, and this will surely help to do that. Yeah, so the CMA shared like 6 of these things, and they're all really positive. It really seemed like the only ones against it were Nvidia, Sony, and Google. But Nvidia obviously changed course when they were offered the 10-year deal, and now they're a proponent. And I believe that the European Commission, I was reading something from MLX that they posted on Reset Era or whatever, that sort of changed their, really spoke volumes that Nvidia changed their mind.
Yeah.
And that Google apparently, I know Google was against it, but apparently they're not party to this anymore or something. They're not like part of the provisional findings thing. So like Google's not an active participant in it anymore.
Well, they quit of their own volition. So it's kind of like, why does Google even get a say? They're not even in they're in the industry as a result of having a mobile phone monopoly, which is problematic in its own right. Google should not have a say in this.
The Geeky Nerd says, why was this anonymous? Well, some of them were anonymous. Some of them weren't. I mean, maybe if you put your name anonymous, maybe if you put your name to it, they would maybe expect some blowback from Sony. If because there was one of them who actually gave their name was the console developer for Minecraft from 4J. Like he put their name to it, and he was like, Microsoft let us do whatever we want with the console stuff, and wanted us to, basically do whatever we wanted with it, right?
Yeah.
So it definitely sounds like the industry is behind the deal. Sony's the only one against it. It's really hard to make the argument that the deal's going to destroy the industry when the industry wants it. Naru says all the devs supporting the acquisition, but the CMA will block the deal regardless. I mean, that's something that is possible. I don't know if that's likely, because I do think if the deal does get blocked by the CMA, they'll just go straight to cat. Because there was something about Microsoft not agreeing with the UK. Yeah, they're not agreeing. They said that they had clear errors in its financial calculations over Call of Duty switching concerns. Maybe that's something they can use in an appeal to a higher authority. But that's assuming the CMA does block it. I don't know. I don't know if they will. But the thing is, I think a lot of developers are probably sick of the position that PlayStation has, because they have a very, very powerful position and they wield it.
They do.
So I think it'd be that's why a lot of the industry is behind it, because it only would benefit them if they were on a more level playing field, because Sony's like asking, like they're the market leader, so like they're the ones who kind of Microsoft can't really compete with deals in the way that Sony can. Sony can offer the most, or Microsoft can't really even compete with the deals that Sony's offering, because it has to be more, because PlayStation has way more users. So for Xbox to get a timed exclusive, it would cost them more than it would for Sony. But you level those things out, and each company is going to be fighting for your money and for your time, for your hard-earned cash. That there's probably the sense that a lot of the developers and publishers feel that they could take advantage of that. They could get deals from Microsoft and Sony, and because it's competitive, maybe there are more offers or better offers. Plus, let's be honest, if people do move from PlayStation and play it more on Xbox, Call of Duty or whatever, that opens up a window on PlayStation for other games to be successful.
Yeah, right? I think like this whole narrative that Microsoft could reduce the cadence by which Call of Duty launches, because Microsoft's been very aggressive about promoting worker health. Maybe they move Call of Duty to a 2-year cycle. That's often been a rumor or an expectation even. If they do that, like that would benefit EA because they could be like, well, we'll make sure our Battlefield games launch on the year Call of Duty isn't launching. And I think that'd be good for the industry in general. You know, I honestly don't think we need a Call of Duty every single year. Personally, that's the only reason that is a thing is because it benefits shareholders. It doesn't benefit anyone else really, in my view. But you know, it'll benefit EA and other publishers if the rate by which these games are made is reduced. You know, as Microsoft focuses its attention more on what Activision can bring to its cloud and mobile efforts. You know, so there's just benefits all around to this deal. Really, really, frankly speaking.
Well, so we'll see how this all goes. April 26th, I still think the date the CMA has. I mean, I expect Microsoft to make more deals with more cloud companies because that definitely seems to be what the European Commission is focused on, the cloud gaming thing. So I don't know what the CMA is going to decide. Maybe they go along with it. Maybe Sony overplayed their hand. I don't know, right?
I've seen that claim a few times today.
So it's interesting to see different. To me, it's not like it is somewhat spicy to see Microsoft and Sony go back at each other and essentially saying this is what we think and this is what and the other one's like this is what we like. It's sad sometimes to see Microsoft being like we just suck at making games. Sony makes better games. They have more exclusives. Just give us Activision Blizzard because we're just lowly third place and we need it, right? And it's kind of sad to see that. But then it's also sad to see Sony debase themselves also to try to make these claims about things that are just wrong or misleading just because they need a position, and that position is we don't want the deal blocked. Because some of their arguments just don't make any sense whatsoever. So you have Microsoft basically making themselves look amateurish, and you have Sony making themselves look like,
prima donnas.
What's the right word? Not even prima donnas. They have Sony making themselves look out to be pathetic, really, with some of the stuff they're saying. It's more interesting to see third parties and their viewpoints of it about what would happen, more neutral parties, right? Because each one has a business interest. Obviously, Microsoft's going to do everything they possibly can to get the deal to go through because they want it and they need it. And Sony's going to say whatever they need to say, even if it makes them sound like assholes, even if it makes them sound like pathetic losers in this scenario. They'll say what they need to say, to protect their business. Jim Ryan doesn't care what people think about. None of this stuff is even going to matter a year from now anyways, if the deal goes through or not. It's not like people are going to stop buying PlayStations because of this, because of what PlayStation said. I mean, that's only really matters to the fans on social media and, the people who write articles and stuff. Like the general public, they don't care about any of this. They just want to be like where the games are, who's got the best deals, who's got the best console, who's got the best exclusives, where's the best value, where do my friends, what are they talking about, and all that sort of stuff. Maybe there's some long-term damage between Sony and Activision, but then again, would it even matter if they are acquired by Xbox? Because clearly, I mean, I think that would only really matter if the deal didn't go through, that they burned all their bridges with Activision. But I would imagine some of the other bigger publishers are probably feel a certain way too, because I mean, basically Sony said that Battlefield ain't shit.
Yeah.
Remember? I mean, they basically said not only that, but they actually said all their own exclusives aren't shit. The only thing that matters is COD.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Sony has the studios, 10 years is a long time. Sony could easily invest and have one of their studios make a competitive first-person shooter. It's just they'd rather have them spend their money on other stuff.
I mean, with the whole Last of Us TV show, you have to assume that whatever this Last of Us service game is that they're making, it's going to be a big deal. well, I forgot what it's called now. Factions? Is it called Factions?
Yeah, Last of Us Factions.
So like you have to imagine that'll be a big deal, you know, and that'll be the subject of a lot of envy for PlayStation, Xbox fans who don't have a PlayStation because A, they got FOMO from the show, even if they haven't played The Last of Us. And then B, Sony be coming out with like this service game, which will no doubt they'll market the hell out of on Twitch, which will create that wave of FOMO that could give it, you know, their own service game. You know, maybe it doesn't blow up super hard, but I'm pretty sure it'll, you know, do well enough to actually make a dent in the whole sort of the narrative that Sony can't do exclusive service games, you know. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
But let's get some of the Patreon questions. Over at patreon.com/xb2. We have one here from Will who says, "Do you guys think there might be a chance that Starfield gets pushed back into December? I have a feeling it will, and it will still be a buggy mess, but an incredible game." Ooh, man. No, I don't think it'll get pushed again. I think they only gave the date because they feel confident they hit it. But then again, you know, Jez did say 100% it was coming out last year. I guess never say never, but I'm going to say never on this one. I don't think Starfield gets pushed back because I think they know how that would sound if they gave a date a second time and then pushed it again.
Yeah, I think they're pretty certain at this point.
Yeah. So no, I don't think it gets delayed again. Nate Miller says Starfield is starting to look really polished. Are you expecting this game to be the smoothest running Bethesda game ever? Any predictions on what type of performance mode they may be targeting? I mean, I want a performance mode that has 60 frames at least. You know, I don't know if that's going to be the case. Some people seem to suggest from watching the videos from the announcement trailer of the release date that it looks like it's running at 60 frames.
Yeah, it did seem like that. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that on purpose to be like, yes, okay, we heard you, you know.
Yeah. I mean, also, it's like, you know, Xbox Series X, most powerful console, next-gen game, 30 frames, not necessarily the best look. Am I expecting it to be the smoothest? Jazz, are you expecting it to be the smoothest running Bethesda game ever?
I'm expecting it to be of a level of quality that would perhaps be not typical for Bethesda. Put it that way. Will it be smooth? Like I can imagine there might be some performance issues in some areas, but I don't think we'll get the kind of game breaking bugs that they're known for. I remember when I was playing Skyrim for the first time, and I got to a point where a quest NPC just wouldn't talk to me anymore for no reason, and I literally couldn't complete the game without starting over again. Like, it's fine on PC because you can use console commands to get around some of that shit. On console, you're screwed. You know, so yeah, I want to believe that they've put a lot of investment in avoiding those kind of concerns, those kind of memes, you know, because they are under a spotlight to the point where they haven't typically been before. You know, fanboys are lining up to hate the game before it's even launched, and you know, you got it's kind of like this is supposed to be the game that sort of gets Xbox back on the map, you know, because they've had a bunch of disappointing launches, many of which, you know, recovered over time, but, you know, they're kind of out of the limelight now. Like, I've even seen people, like, really praising Halo Infinite recently. I don't know if you've had any interest in going back to that, but...
No, I told you, Battle Royale or nothing for me.
Yeah, but people seem to really like what
I don't have anybody to play with, so
yeah.
You know, other games I want to play.
I don't play it because I'm just bad at it, but it does seem like it's, you know, starting to claw back some of its audience. You know, I don't see it ever being like a big deal, the likes of which, you know, Microsoft was probably hoping for with it being a free to play or whatever. But you know, I do think they're starting to hit their stride now. But yeah.
Yeah, Firestarter says, "Lol, you can hear Jez's controller button presses." Indeed, you can.
Is it loud? Is it really annoying? I mean,
you can hear it for sure. And I think everybody's just sort of used to it.
I mean, when you're hosting the call, I've got there's like a noise gate which stops it, but when I'm hosting, it's not going through Discord, so it's harder to mute stuff. I don't know.
Right.
They need to design a stealth controller that doesn't make noises.
We have one here from Donataku who says, "What's a genre or franchise you like a lot that you don't get to talk about too often?" I put at least 150 hours into the Sims games yearly since 2003, but I rarely talk about it as most people I know don't play or care about the franchise. That's interesting. Most people wouldn't admit to playing The Sims, but
The Sims is huge, man. I get like emails constantly from EA, like, look at what we've added to Sims this week. It almost feels like that game. Like, I don't know any game that gets as many updates as The Sims.
I don't think there is a genre or franchise that I like a lot that I just don't talk about. If I play something, I talk about it.
You have to remember, guys, Rand only plays trending games.
No, that's not true.
So there's just no reason for him.
The game I'm playing right now, I finished Wolong, is Guardians of the Galaxy. That's a game that's 2 years old, Jez. What do you mean?
Yeah, well, that's an action game based on a major IP.
So I didn't play it.
It's not exactly niche.
Well, it's not exactly trending, is it?
No, I guess. I mean,
so
I usually talk about everything I play. I mean, I suppose like my guilty pleasure, if you want to call it that, is Pokemon, because I fully know that Pokemon, if it wasn't Pokemon, if it was some other random game, like look at all the Pokemon clones and how they fail. They fail because the gameplay loop's not that great. So the only reason people play that stuff is because of nostalgia, you know. So I suppose Pokemon's like my eternal guilty pleasure. Like Pokemon Sword and Shield was just not a good game. It was not a good game overall, you know. I play it for the PvP, and even that is like everyone ends up using the same Pokemon because there's only one viable build when you get to a high level. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's no genre or franchise that I like a lot that I just don't talk about. I am someone who does play a game, finish it, and move on to the next. So it's not like I'm sitting here and play 2K or I'm playing like Destiny all the time or something. I don't really have the, like Jez says, that guilty pleasure where he's like you line up to play the newest Pokemon or something. So I just don't have that.
I really like simulation strategy games. Like I talk about them sometimes on the show, but I really like games like Frostpunk. I'm really excited for Frostpunk 2. And I mentioned earlier I've been playing Civ on the cloud as well, Civilization. Love that game. I dropped a nuclear bomb on London yesterday, which was hilarious. So yeah.
Sorry No Waffle says, I know you guys bring the sauce when it comes to news every week, so I have a different question. If you guys realized that real life was a video game and you're the main character, what would you do? Also, this may be common knowledge, but how did two of you meet and what made you guys start Xbox 2? Thanks, fellas. Have a great weekend. You want to go answer that first, Jez?
Well, first of all, like, how did we meet? You need to tell the story because I honestly cannot remember. How did we meet?
You can't remember?
No, how did we meet? Like originally, was it on like one of the podcasts? Was it on someone else's podcast? We met on Twitter.
Yeah, obviously we met on Twitter, and I think we probably met on Mooch's podcast or Craps podcast back in the day, Xbox Nation or Crossfire, right?
It would have. I never done Xbox Nation, so it probably would have been Crossfire.
We probably both were on Crossfire at some point.
Yeah.
And I think I started talking to you, or we followed each other. Where, we became better friends is because I went to E3 2016 and you were there too, and we butted in line. Remember? We were going to that special event after the Microsoft E3 press conference, and you were in line. And I think me and Tim Dog came up with you, and we just kind of started talking. And then I think there was another event that we ended up right next to each other in line, and we started talking some more. And then I think when I told you Scalebound was canceled, you didn't believe me, and then it actually happened.
We were already podcasting at that point.
No, we weren't. We didn't start podcasting until digital. We started podcasting April of 2017.
So we weren't podcasting when Scalebound was cancelled?
When did Scalebound get canceled?
I can't remember.
Search for it. Or do you want me to search for it? I'll search for it.
You search for it.
I'm sure chat remembers.
Was it 2016?
Scalebound. Well, because it was at E3 2016. It wasn't there. It was supposed to be there, then it wasn't. It got canceled in 2017. Microsoft announced its cancellation January of 2017.
Right. Okay.
We didn't start podcasting until April of 2017.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's, I don't know. So we met at E3. We started talking. We started like just talking about video game stuff and Skype and things like that. And then I think it was either me or Jez. We were like, "No, it's a shame. These are such good conversations." Astro Cyberg says, "Who said it was canceled?" I told Jez it was canceled.
Yeah, you
I
did.
told Jez, I was like, "I think it's canceled, bro." And then Jez and Tim Dog, I both told both of them, and Jez and Tim both said, "Absolutely no way Microsoft cancels Scalebound. 0% chance, Rand." And I was like, "All right."
In that
And then it got
voice?
canceled. Yeah, in that voice. So yeah, we started just talking on Skype and stuff, and just talking about games and Xbox and where we thought the platform was headed and all these sort of things. And then one of us was like, "Hey, wouldn't it be cool if we just did this on a podcast?" And at the time, it was kind of like Google Hangouts, so we just started doing that. And it's almost 6 years later. Next month will be 6 years doing this
6
together.
years. Damn. That's crazy,
Yeah,
bro.
that
What
is
was the other
crazy.
part of the question?
The other
What-
part of the question was, if you realize real life was a video game and you're the main character, what would you do?
Man, there's actually like, isn't there like an actual theory in physics that we live in a simulation? Because
it's true.
the equations for dark matter would make sense if everything was not
I know what I
real.
would do. You know what I would do?
What?
I would make the whole Rand and his Lamborghini real. I would go just steal a Lamborghini like it's Grand Theft Auto and rob a bank or something. You know?
Rob a bank?
I don't know. Not rob a bank, but I would go get a Lamborghini and be like, "All right,
Well,
you know."
I suppose it depends. Like, is it like the Matrix where it's based on real world rules, or like, can I open the console and give myself God mode powers or something? I don't know.
I mean, if you wanted like powers, it'd be like a Crackdown agent where you can run real fast, jump real high, right? Like, who wouldn't want those sort of things?
I don't know.
That would be super cool. Or would you want to be in like Diablo as a character just killing demons?
I just want my life exactly as it is, but I don't have to go to work. I can just podcast, play games, and that's it. Don't have to do any writing. Don't have to deal with PR people who don't like me. Don't have to deal with fanboys. I would delete Twitter so fast. And then I get all the peeps here into the Discord and hang out and just chill, and that'd be great. That'd be awesome. But yeah.
Ryan Kipple says, "Book tangent, sorry to the non-readers." He says, "Okay, Rand, I think I know a book series that Jez might like. The Darth Bane trilogy. Have you read it?
Ooh, I actually own
It's
that.
crucial Star Wars lore, but dark, intriguing, Sith-focused, and really violent. Darth Bane is a vile badass, and it makes the OG Star Wars feel like Sesame Street. What's not to love?" It's interesting you say that, because I think Joaquin has been talking up that series to me.
Yeah, I actually
don't know.
own that book. The books I bought when I was when was it? When Star Wars: The Old Republic came out. I was really hyped for this game. I booked two weeks off work, and I really threw myself really hard into Star Wars: The Old Republic, but also like some of the wider lore. I can't remember if this is before Disney purchased it, I think. But like a lot of those lore books are now regarded as expanded universe stuff or whatever. But I did buy the Darth Bane stuff, and I bought a lot of the Old Republic books, like about Darth Revan and stuff like that. But guess what? Never read them. So I own them.
Never
but
read
I
'em.
Never got around to reading them. So they're like, I think I gave them to my brother or something. But they're there somewhere in my house. But if I ever do read them, I'll probably get them on Kindle and stuff. But I haven't been in a Star Wars mood for a long time. I was actually thinking about this the other day. Like, I go through these phases where it's like, oh my god, I love Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars. And then I go through a phase of like, I'm kind of tired of Star Wars now. And I think like after watching the Book of Boba Fett, it kind of burned me out on Star Wars. I haven't watched Andor. I haven't like watched any of the other stuff. I really wanted to watch the Bad Batch and some of those other Star Wars shows, and everyone's saying how good Andor was, but I'm just like, Book of Boba Fett really burnt me out on Star Wars. I don't know why. It just really did. Even though I enjoyed it, kind of. I haven't watched the Mandalorian new season either. I don't know. Kind of burned out on it, man.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's fair enough. I haven't watched the Mandalorian new season yet either, so. Let's see. We got here. Austin Sellers says, taco or grilled cheese fight to the death. Who wins? Prison rules. I mean, grilled cheese.
Yeah,
rules.
I agree with that.
Grilled cheese all day, every day over taco. Yeah, grilled cheese. Random Cisco says, Jez, was there any update on the muted clip when you were in the news? You said they will fix it for reruns. I know it's possibly old info at this point, but I would still like to see it because I really love what you guys are doing. Both of you are amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Rodimus. Did they ever fix that, Jez?
No, I don't know. I never heard back from them. I didn't chase them up on it. They're all good sports. So I have no idea what happened there. No idea. I don't know if it was an issue on my end or an issue on their end.
It's a cool emote that people took from it. You know, they use it on a couple of the Discords I'm in. Just when something goes wrong or you say something stupid.
Yeah.
You know.
They don't use it very often then.
Lazar Wolf says, after Xbox acquires ABK, Phil Spencer asks each of you to run one of the new studios to make any game you want. Which studio are you picking and what game, new or existing IP, are you making? Thanks for the great podcast. Well, we know what Jez is doing. He's running Blizzard and he's making StarCraft.
Yeah, well, I don't know if the StarCraft team still exists. Like, a lot of the people that made StarCraft what it is, a lot of them have moved on to another studio and they're kind of working on a sort of a StarCraft successor. I can't remember what it's called now off the top of my head, but there is like a lot of the DNA of Blizzard's RTS team just isn't there anymore. So it's almost like, well, if I wanted to make StarCraft, I'd have to, build a team from scratch or something. I think what I'd do, man, I would 100% get one of the Call of Duty teams working on either a Call of Duty ODST or a Call of Duty StarCraft. Because, like, I think, like, the whole, like, Call of Duty World War II and then Call of Duty Modern Warfare and then Black Ops, I think that whole, like, cycle is so boring. Like, they could do so much more with that gameplay. And I'd really want to see, like, what would it look like if there was a Call of Duty where you play as an ODST and, like, instead of zombies, it's the Flood. Or if, like, it was Call of Duty StarCraft and instead of zombies, it was the Zerg. I think that would be so sick. But I don't know. It's just me. What would you do?
I got one for you. And it's different.
Go on.
So, I would run Ninja Theory. And I would make a sequel to Enslave Odyssey to the West.
Never played that.
Great game. Absolutely fantastic game. And I always wanted a sequel. Never got it. But you know what, damn it? I'm going to do it. I'm going to be like, Phil, we're going to go to Bandai Namco. We're going to buy the IP. And we are going to make that our next game. Oh. There we go. And then after that, I go to a different studio. I go to Coalition, and then be like, all right, we're making Mandalorian. And then after that was done, because I'm not really like, there's a lot of Xbox IP, but I'm just like not. There isn't one like, because I'm getting an Alan Wake 2. Oh, I'd be like, Phil, buy Remedy. We're doing Quantum Break 2, baby.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's what I would. That's what I would do. Good. Because some people would be like, I know some people would be like, I'm gonna be put in charge of Rare, and we're making Banjo, and I'd be like, not on my watch.
Not on my watch.
Not on my watch.
Oh no, okay. You're gonna make people sad, bro.
No, I mean I still want Banjo. I still want Banjo to come back for my Banjo Bros.
Bros.
I'm just not gonna run Rare and bring Banjo back myself.
I don't think Rare. Rare said they don't want it, didn't they?
Of course. Why would Rare want it? They've created a bigger game than any game they've ever made with Sea of Thieves.
Yeah.
And who knows what they're gonna do with Everwild, but Master Queef says, when is Alan Wake 2 coming? Supposedly this year, probably fall. Oh, we'll see. Omen says, sounds like the EU will probably approve the ABK deal, but the CMA is a little more up in the air, probably leaning to block. I did some research, and apparently 70% of mergers in Phase 2 CMA review like the ABK deal are blocked by the CMA. And then going further, if a company tries to appeal CMA block, the CMA has won 60% of those appeal cases. So when you do all the math based on previous cases, it sounds like the 70% chance that the CMA will block the ABK merger, and if we wanted to calculate the chance of both the CMA block and a successful counter to appeal, the percentage jumps to 90.1%. So statistically, there's 90% chance the ABK merger is blocked by the CMA. That said, the media lately seems to be much more upbeat about this merger actually happening, and Microsoft seems oddly optimistic too. So my question is this: what do you personally think this percentage chance this merger actually happens? I don't know. I still think. Look, I think that I don't know if I said this. I think I said this in Xbox 2 Ultimate, but I'm kind of leaning towards it being blocked simply because I'm kind of just expect the worst, hope for the best, right? So
I'm the same way. Yeah.
I'm just kind of being like, my expectation is that the CMA will block it, even if everything sounds really good, that it's actually going to go through. My expectation is like, no, it'll be blocked. So I don't wake up one day and then see the news and, get disappointed that I'm going to, it's going to go on for even more time. So I'm initially just like, yeah, it's going to get blocked. And if it doesn't, well then I'm really surprised. It'd be like, finally this national nightmare is over and we can move on.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I expect the worst, and then if it turns out good, then great. But like I said earlier in the show, before we got disconnected and had to make it again, like Blizzard's been doing a large part of my personal motivations for the deal revolved around Blizzard being owned by a better company, because it really did feel like Bobby Kotick and the Activision shareholder culture was going to kill Blizzard. There was like the whole Warcraft 3 Reforged, slapdash, cut corners BS, putting StarCraft on hiatus, shutting down Heroes of the Storm despite how popular it still is. All that stuff, like, I can't see Microsoft handling some of that stuff the way that Activision did. That being said, more recently, Blizzard's sort of been doing a lot better. And I think that's because, conspiracy theory could be that the reason they're doing better is because, the shareholders are happy and, there's less spinning plates at Activision because they're kind of like, well, we'll just let Blizzard make good games because we're going to Microsoft now. But honestly, the reality is probably just that they realize they need to let Blizzard be Blizzard and not stop trying to make it something it isn't. And a lot of my personal feelings about getting Blizzard away from Activision, like how well Blizzard's doing lately without being part of Microsoft is kind of like, taking the edge off my desperation a little bit. And it's like Microsoft said to me at Brussels, the Activision deal accelerates our vision, but it isn't the whole vision. So, yeah. I think either way, things will be fine. And I just kind of want it over with now.
Yeah, I didn't know the numbers. I didn't know the numbers were that 70% of mergers in Phase 2 are blocked. That, I don't know, does that sound right to you?
I mean...
70% of mergers in Phase 2 are blocked?
I mean, it could be.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it could be. I haven't really looked into it, but
this merge is unlike anything else. I think often when a merger gets to Phase 2 with the CMA, it's because it's something truly insane, like Nvidia buying ARM, for example. Like if Nvidia had bought ARM, the mobile chips company, they would have had so much power. They already have such an advantage over Intel and AMD when it comes to server chips and stuff like that. Pretty much every server now with AI, they all want NVIDIA compute for processing AI. They all want NVIDIA compute for Bitcoin mining and stuff. If that market ever comes back, I did notice crypto had jumped recently, so we could be going back into a bull market, guys, to the moon. But but they all want NVIDIA compute for that stuff. And ain't nobody mining crypto on an Intel Arc GPU or nothing. So, if you're giving them ARM as well, that would have been a huge issue for competition, because there isn't that many companies that can really make chips at that level. However, Activision is just not that. It's really not that situation. It's just about trying to convince the regulators that, even though Microsoft itself is a big, diverse company, they're really not being a bad guy here. They're really not, And it's just sort of getting rid of that meme that sort of Microsoft has kind of earned for itself by being, I don't know, historically a bit shady, with the whole Internet Explorer thing back in the day. And a lot of the people in the regulatory community, they're probably thinking about stuff Microsoft has done in the past when framing this deal in their minds, But the facts are on Microsoft's side, in my view, and I think most people's views. So hopefully it'll just get through. Even if it's 70% chance that they'll sue the block, they can still go to appeal process. And the CMA has lost appeals. Sometimes they lost one against Pfizer a little while ago. Pfizer obviously makes pharmaceuticals and vaccines and stuff like that, and the CMA lost to them on appeal. So, I think Microsoft will fight this to the bitter end. And I do wonder though, if they do just try to block it outright, will Microsoft walk away on the basis of the CMA alone? I almost wonder what would happen. Could Microsoft just walk away from the UK market? Why not? I wouldn't think that was a big deal for them to do, frankly, if they are really as small as they claim in Europe. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Let's see. Next question. We have Achievement, who says, I've noticed a trend where games get announced for PlayStation and Switch and then later announced for Xbox and usually day one Game Pass as well. Do you think this is done because they know people want to play it on Game Pass, but hope the people pre-order on other platforms before the Game Pass announcement? Potentially, yeah.
It could be. It could also be that they're still working out the Game Pass stuff as well. Because a lot of smaller games, they want that Game Pass bag, if they're a decent enough game. Because I noticed Microsoft curates Xbox Game Pass very carefully. It's not like they just throw everything in there willy-nilly. I noticed that, for example, on NVIDIA GeForce Now, there's 1,500 games in there, 1,500 games. And a lot of them ain't good. A lot of them ain't that good. They go from high-quality experiences like Cyberpunk all the way down to just total crapware that you've never heard of. And then they're not making any effort to curate that at all. But they're also selling games directly. So on NVIDIA GeForce Now, there's a library of games you can play just as part of the subscription. But most of the games you actually just have to buy on Steam to play them in the cloud as well, So there's this whole sort of ecosystem that's a lot more convoluted than Xbox Game Pass. Different business models at the end of the day. But with regards to games being announced, I mean, it could be that, like you said, the people want to wait for the pre-orders to go through, or it could be that they're just still working on getting a deal for Xbox Game Pass and they're holding out hope that if they announce it on other platforms first, Microsoft will be like, please put it on our system, and then they'll be like, it gives them some leverage potentially. They'll be like, yeah, we'll put it on your system, but we want some of that Game Pass bag,
Yeah.
It's all speculation at the end of the day because we don't have the contractual agreements here in front of us. So, oh, and dude, it seems like I've crashed in Diablo 4. Damn. That means I'm going to have to leave and join the queue. No!
Good. Good.
Oh,
we have a question here from CJ. Says Happy Friday, gents. Just wanted to go back to something you mentioned in the Ultimate Show, which we did this past Tuesday. So, any of you guys Patreons who have access to that, go check it out. I thought it was a pretty good show. Next month, we have a themed show where me and Jez are going to rank the top 10 Xbox exclusives and the 10 worst Xbox exclusives. So, that should be pretty fun.
That'd be fun.
He says, you mentioned with the whole mid-gen refresh discussion about COD having parity with PlayStation. If Xbox did a mid-gen console and was significantly more powerful and Sony wanted COD to have the same graphics, etc., does something like that have a completely negative impact against competition innovation? Like, what's the point in developing a higher spec console if you have to bend the knee to Sony's ridiculous parity clause?
Yeah,
Surely that's a bad thing for consumers and something regulators should want the opposite of.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing, right? This arbitrary performance ceiling that Sony forces on third parties. You know, if there's anything that could potentially, like, you know, add extra complexity to the delivery of performance optimizations on Xbox, it's this idea of arbitrarily restricting the performance of Xbox games because Sony has stipulated that as part of its licensing agreements. And we know they do that from court documents. So, like, for anyone out there who's like listening to this and like, oh my god, fanboy conspiracy, we literally know this is a fact as per court documents, which I believe emerged as part of the Epic Games court case, right, Rand? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, possibly.
Yeah, I can't remember what court case it was, but this isn't some conspiracy theory. It's actually a thing. You know, Google it or Bing it. But yeah, I can imagine if you're a dev and it's like, okay, we've got to make this game, but we have to make it exactly the same on PlayStation 5 as it is on Xbox Series X, which means we have to arbitrarily restrict some of the access to the Xbox's overhead performance and stuff like that. It's like, you know, I don't know how that works, but I'm sure this is something that could come up with regulators if the battle gets nastier. But at the same time, I guess more to your point is, yeah, what is the point of a mid-gen refresh if both consoles have to constantly have this sort of back and forth battle where it's like, you know, Sony's gonna arbitrarily restrict games from hitting any performance target above what is available on PlayStation 5, and then it's kind of like, well, Xbox, and then that puts Xbox in the position of, well, we could overspec the PlayStation 5, but that's going to make it more expensive. So it's basically about trying to make a better system that's the same price. That's the real bottleneck. It's a balancing act, man. It must be really hard trying to predict and work all that stuff out. But I think we're going to have this back and forth where...
Well, I mean, because there was a question somebody asked during the Ultimate Show, because we were talking about the next-gen, mid-gen upgrades, and it was like, if the Series XL is significantly more powerful, right, and Xbox owns ABK and they have Call of Duty, but they're required by, you know, their agreement, their licensing agreement, that Call of Duty has to have technical content, all these sort of parodies with the PlayStation version. There's like, the question was, does that mean that Call of Duty version on Xbox gimped, I think was the word used, so they can, you know, get a matching version on PlayStation? And it's just one of those things where it's interesting to think about. I don't know. I don't see when they talk about parity. I don't know if it's like, all right, this game has to be the exact same resolution and the frame rate has to run at the exact same spots and same areas and stuff. Like, is it like, you know, something different? You know, like, we don't know what terminology is and what that actually means and stuff. So it's tough to say.
Some of it's speculation, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, how much better could it run? Like, okay, so it runs at 4K 120, and then on PlayStation, you know, it runs maybe just a little bit less than 4K, but still 120. Would that be in violation of the agreement? I don't know, because I mean, clearly that version of the game isn't going to run that good on Switch 2. So is Switch 2 not going to have technical parity? Is it just going to have content and release parity? I don't know. That's who knows how all that stuff. It definitely sounds like a headache, but
yes, sir.
My name is Mud says, do you think making Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 available on PS5 ends up being a concession? No. I do not think so.
I think they should do it anyway.
No, they should not do it.
They should do it, man.
Why?
Because I get Blizzard, man. I don't give a shit. Put Halo on PlayStation.
No, absolutely not. They shouldn't do it.
What? They should, man. They should do it, man.
No, absolutely not. Why? Give me a good reason. Just because I got Blizzard, why should they? Phil's even said multiple times that console exclusives are the business, how the business operates.
Nah,
they need
Blizzard's how the business operates. Nothing else matters, bro.
Okay. That's why when they revealed, this past 2 E3s ago now, they're like, that's right. Sarah Bond was like, that's right. And it's Xbox exclusive, and they had the big promo image of the poster with Xbox exclusive literally plastered right next to it, and then the same thing for Redfall because they know it's important. Phil said basically they're marketing beats for the platform. Starfield is going to be huge, and everything around it's basically going to point people to the Xbox ecosystem, despite it also being the most wish-listed game on Steam. Right? It's a big. Yeah, so I mean, Elder Scrolls 6 would even be a bigger thing. So no, they whatever they decide is what they decide, and I don't think any regulator is gonna be like, well, you need to do this with Bethesda. But no, absolutely not, Jez. I disagree with you. 100%.
Xbox exclusive. I don't care, man. They can put Halo on a calculator for all I care. I just want Blizzard, bro.
Okay, what else we got here? We have Gooey Cheese, who says, what's the rarest game you own? Mine is Godzilla for PS4. It's a terrible game that I got for $20, but it was taken off the PlayStation Store, and because it's sold terribly, physical copies are hard to find. It's now worth about $150 to $200.
Wow. The rarest game I own... I actually own quite a lot of games that are actually worth a lot of money now.
Really?
Stuff like... the PlayStation 2 version of Persona 3, the original version, Persona 4, PlayStation 2, pristine versions of Legend of Dragoon, Final Fantasy 7 with the European box art, like loads of weird random stuff like that. I don't actually know, like, a lot of the games that I do own are pretty mainstream. I don't know if any of them are particularly rare. I own the Pikachu edition N64 as well. Have you seen that?
No, I have not seen that.
So, like, when you turn it on, the cheeks light up red. It's amazing.
I don't own any rare games. In fact, all the games I own right now are all digital. So, I mean, I don't think anything digital is rare. So no, I don't own anything. I don't own anything rare video game wise.
What if they What if they make all digital games NFTs and you can sell them on the deep web?
I did see. Wasn't there something about Sony and NFTs or something recently? I saw today.
Sony's supposedly potentially making an NFT collectibles market where you can get rare items from games and then trade them on a marketplace similar to CSGO. I mean, I think Xbox will do this as well. Like, Xbox literally has tested this kind of stuff too. I think some of it's actually publicly accessible, if I remember off the top of my head. There's like a Microsoft Store NFT marketplace thing somewhere. Test, I don't know. Can't remember off the top of my head, but I do know Microsoft's experimenting with this as well. And like, you have to expect that they'll do this, because I don't know if you've seen how much skins are going for in CS:GO, and that's not even blockchain based. Have you seen how much a skin in CS:GO can sell for?
No, how much?
I'm talking like hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars. Because I don't know why CS:GO skin sells for, like, if you search in Google and then click on news, right? I clicked on maps. That's not good. Where's the news? Have they removed the news tab? Oh, it's all hidden all the way over there. Yeah, okay. So I said hundreds and thousands, right? Well, 3 days ago, A CS:GO AK-47 skin, which isn't blockchain based, sold for $160,000, and that's not even an NFT. $160,000 because it had some rare stickers on it as well. So, and presumably, Valve gets a cut of that. I think, I don't know how it works, but I would presume they did get a cut of it. And if they don't get a cut of it, they probably should reconsider getting a cut of it. But you have to expect that Microsoft and Sony and probably Nintendo as well are looking at that shit and thinking, man, we want a piece of this. Why aren't we selling super rare skins in Sea of, like, dude, like even Sea of Thieves, like if you go on eBay and search for, like, you know, sometimes Rare has done these like promos for skins in Sea of Thieves, where like if you go to an event or you buy a book or you pre-order the game, stuff like that, blah 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 blah, you can get like a rare skin in Sea of Thieves. Some of these skins sell for hundreds of pounds on eBay. Like if you've got a code for one of these rare Sea of Thieves skins, it's like hundreds of pounds, man. And they ain't getting any. Microsoft ain't getting a cut of that. eBay's getting all the money, all the cuts from that. So they have to be thinking like there's probably something to this digital collectible stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised if Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo will get in on it in the future.
Potentially, I don't know.
You gonna buy a skin for $160,000, Rand? No.
Nope. I definitely would not buy a skin for $160,000.
If you have a sealed copy of the first World of Warcraft collector's edition, they sell for like $5,000.
Jeez, you should have had one of those, Jez. You should have been forward thinking.
Yeah, I would have used all the digital codes, so it would have been worth a lot less. Like you can buy them for like $100 if you don't care about the codes. But the collector's edition came with like a mini Diablo pet, you know, for example, with a code and a bunch of other collectibles. And if you have a sealed copy with the digital codes, it's worth thousands of dollars. And eBay's getting that money, not Microsoft, not Blizzard, nobody else. So I think these digital collectible things are the future probably. I think there's something to it, even if it's not NFT based or not blockchain based. There's something to it, man.
Silas says, with E3 season coming up, everyone is expecting Microsoft to announce an in-person event and a live presentation with fans in attendance. I was wondering if you guys thought that by doing a fan event, it may appear a bit tone deaf since they are in the process of laying off 10,000 employees, and staging these events aren't cheap. While I love the idea of getting the community together, an expense like this, despite how minor the cost may be in the big picture, that money may be better spent elsewhere.
I mean, the thing is, the money that Microsoft spends on a fan event isn't going to pay someone's wages at the end of the day. You know, it's like a one-off payment, a one-off event. If you're employing someone, you presumably be paying them for like months, for years. You know, so I don't think it's tone deaf because it ultimately comes out of the marketing budget. It's not like
it's a marketing thing.
Yeah, it's not like the money from the marketing budget is being used to pay people's wages. But yeah, I mean, I just saw Facebook announce this week that they're going to lay off another 10,000 people. You know, Part of it's interest rates, part of it's you know, these companies hired too many people to respond to the work from home. The work from the pandemic where everyone was stuck at home, you know. And if you're a cloud provider or if you're like a social media company, it's like, oh, everyone's stuck at home. We need to make the most of this opportunity now, you know. It's just capitalism at the end of the day, and it sucks, you know. It really does suck that we're all sort of, those of us who work for corporations, such as myself, we're important until we ain't, you know. And then you get the company sending out emails saying like, oh, we're all a family here. It's like, yeah, we're all a family until your shareholder dividends are threatened, you know. That's just capitalism. But nah, I don't think it's tone deaf. It kind of is what it is. Yeah, I did see around, by the way, Microsoft laid off its team that was dedicated to setting Microsoft's ethics policies for AI. So now, so Microsoft no longer has a team that is responsible.
Skynet's happening?
Yeah, Skynet's happening, basically, yeah.
Oh, great. Adam MC says, can we get a RIP Lance Reddick gone too soon. Indeed. I don't know if it was in this stream or the last one, but
It's the last one, I think.
yeah, we couldn't believe it because we went live right beforehand and we're
Yeah.
just like, oh my god, Lance Reddick is gone.
He
Yeah, so
died of
those are
natural
all the
causes, apparently.
those are all the Patreon questions. You can always sign up at patreon.com/xb2. Well, let's take some. We haven't taken any questions from chat in a while, so let's open it up. Chat, if you got any questions, make sure you just at me, and I'll make sure to read them. Hopefully we got some. Some of the smaller things that happened. Far Cry 5 got a next gen update. Jez runs at full 4K 60 now.
Yeah, I did
To
see that.
celebrate the 5-year anniversary of Far Cry 5, which is my favorite Far Cry. So that's pretty cool. As well
it was
as
also my favorite Far Cry. Well, actually, I think Far Cry Primal was my favorite Far Cry, which I know is a niche opinion to have. But Far Cry 5 was definitely the last one I really enjoyed. But would I go back and play it? I don't think so.
yeah. IO Interactive says Hitman is on a hiatus for a bit.
How do you feel about that? I mean, they've done a pretty damn good job of running it.
I mean, they were doing the Hitman games like once every 2 years. And it's like, yeah, and they just released that update which turned like Hitman into a roguelike game or roguelike mode. So yeah, I could see them basically being, all right, we're focusing on the James Bond game, right? And then we have that Project Fantasy, which may or may not be Project Dragon, or which may or may not be an Xbox exclusive. I don't know.
We don't know.
And then, yeah, I could see them coming back to Hitman. Maybe they just need to retool it, think of some new things. Because Hitman 3 was incredibly successful compared to the previous games. But remember, I think when they put out Hitman 1, or the Hitman reboot, they were still owned by Square. And then I believe they bought their independence. They went independent. And then Hitman 2 was published by Warner Brothers. And then Hitman 3 was self-published. And then Hitman 3 was like incredibly successful compared to the other ones. It's crazy. Like significantly better, like sales-wise or whatever. I've always said like, man, they're a great developer. I would love for Xbox to target them for acquisition, but honestly, they're probably of the mind that they went from Square Enix. Why would they want to get bought by somebody else? They're probably making a bet on themselves, right? Yeah. So probably not going to happen. And those things probably, they're talking all the time, but things fall through. But I wouldn't expect it. Jagger Jez, he wants to know any news on why Mega Man Battle Network Collection isn't coming to Xbox.
I did see this. I have no clue. I mean, it could be another one of them, like maybe it's coming to Game Pass, and they just haven't announced it yet. It's really hard to get information on these kind of deals because it's like, it's super duper, all below 1 million NDAs. So it's really hard to get information on this stuff. And it's not like, people lower down the chain know about it either. So yeah, I have no idea. But hopefully it will come in the end.
Yeah, hopefully it does. Joaquin says, Rand, would you play Pokemon if it was actually a repurposed Skylanders or maybe a Warcraft pet battle mobile game? No. What kind of question is that? No Pokemon, sir. And I think, did I ever play a Skylanders? I'm trying to think.
I never played it. I know people who really loved it though.
I don't think I played a Skylanders, but I could be wrong. I might have played one of them, but I want to say I didn't.
My friend's kid grew up on that stuff, and he's like, I don't know, 15 now or something. So I think there'd be a whole generation of people who are really hyped about that coming back from a nostalgia perspective. I was a little bit too old, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I did play Skylanders. I know there was a bunch of them. I know, Gamer Score is one of those things where it's like, man, I need to because of Gamer Score or whatever, because you had to play everything. But do you know Xbox has a problem with some of the Gamer Score stuff now because they're starting to release language stacks of games that all it offers is a different language, and then they update the score. It's like I saw this one game. It was like, here's the game, and like, oh, here's the Windows version, which is a stack. Oh, here's the Spanish version. Oh, here's the German version. Oh, here's this version. But you don't need to switch your region to buy it. It's just the same game in the store, but with a different achievement list. And it's all that's different is like the language.
That's shady, isn't it?
I mean, people do anything for some quick achievement points, bro. That's just how it is. But yeah,
I wish Microsoft would actually take a look at some of this crap.
Well, I think Chris Charla said he was, because that's kind of a.
They need like a high level pass on an Xbox achievement system. It is like, it feels like decrepit and falling apart. It's full of exploits and publishers gaming the system and all that kind of crap. I don't know.
Yeah. Snake says, Rand Jez, check your DMs from me when you get a chance, please. Okay, we'll do so, bro. I have to check I usually check my DMs like once a week. Jason Dill says, Rand, would you play a Pokemon game where Pikachu used guns? Possibly, maybe. If it wasn't really a Pokemon game, but it was like Pokemon Grand Theft Auto or something. Maybe I could do that. But yeah, I think that's everything. All the questions and all the topics covered. I believe so. So you're hosting this. So you're the ones that gotta do outros. So I can then like end the stream and stuff. So it's gonna be a little awkward. So
a little awkward. Well, thanks for joining my show, Rand. Where can people find you on the internet?
We never do that because it's like, what's the point? People have been listening forever and they know. Hi, well, thanks for having me, Jez. I'm RandallThor19, and you can find me on youtube.com/RandallThor19, where I post videos about Xbox and gaming, and then I do a podcast every single Friday with my best friend, Jez Corden of Windows Central.
Ah, bless him.
That's where you can, and maybe you can follow me on Twitter. I don't tweet that much. I'm not like Jez. I won't spam your feed with a bunch of bull.
What? Did you not see the macaroni pizza I posted the other day? That's a high-quality tweet. Oh, no, you should go and check it out, man. I actually want to know your thoughts on that. So Pizza Hut are doing a mac and cheese pizza. It's just a pizza covered in mac and cheese. I think it looks excellent, but Twitter was not of the same opinion. So, yeah. I wonder what people in chat think about that. But yes, I've been Jez Corden, co-host of the Xbox 2 podcast. You can find me on Twitter at Jez Corden, JZCORDEN. And sorry about all the technical issues we had in the show. It's all Rand's fault, so blame Rand.
Yeah, I mean, crapped out on me. Yeah, my fault.
But hopefully we'll get that sorted for next week's show, and there'll be less disruption, and we'll rock and roll it out, I guess. But yeah, I'll see you all next week. Take care, everybody.
Later.
Bye.